Oh, hi guys. Hopefully, do we have microphone today? Do we have microphone? Hey, what's up? It has been such a shit show today. It's ridiculous. Uh, and just as I was starting stream, the kind of chat aggregate program I was using had a required update that it started automatically. So that's why I was not on camera at the beginning there. And then still having some issues with my computer. I can see chat about 10 feet over there. So I need to pull it up here on my laptop. But things are still, I have made some progress, but things are still totally not back to normal yet. It's been a frustrating week. I haven't had nearly as much time to work on things. I was supposed to have Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday through the day to kind of get some things done. But I ended up having I had to help out some other people through the week. And yeah. Rum and Coke. I wish. This is just Coke today, unfortunately. No rum and Coke. I am completely out of rum. But, yeah, unfortunately, like, things on the 3D printing front have been pretty slow lately. I did a few tests. Some of the small things I was printing, I was having issues with, like, the top layers. If you've ever printed anything and gotten, like, it looks like the nozzle had stopped and kind of extruded a little bit, and there was, like, a circle with, like, just some filament. I was trying to, like, mess with that this week. So the little bit of printing I did this week was spent messing with that. I was printing out little squares as test pieces, messing with settings. So again, I don't have my other webcam hooked up, so I can't even show you guys the pieces. But if any of you have had that problem, has anybody else had that problem? Part of it was, I think that I'm using a smaller nozzle, and I'm trying to think of the setting. The coasting, where I think that's the setting that determines a distance. Like, say you're extruding a line of filament and you're a few millimeters from the end, it'll actually stop the extruder motor, so that back pressure pushes filament out instead of doing that. What is that big box under the posters? Which big box? I have a copy. Again, like, the set I think is moving along nicely, but I was hoping to have it done yesterday, so I spent this morning working on it, and I didn't get much done. Like, there's space constraints here. Like, I can't get the camera where I want it, and, like, I didn't want to have all this. Like, you guys remember me complaining about this whole setup here, but that's Earth Siege. That's an old Dynamix Bethesda Softworks game. Old PC game. Kind of like a Gundam box. No, it is a mech game. It's one of my favorite mech games, but it's Earth Siege, which is part of, like, the BattleTech universe, sort of. They had Earth Siege, and then Earth Siege 2, and then Star Siege, which kind of gave birth to Tribes. I have so much stuff I want to, like, have on display here. Because I also have a sealed box copy of Star Siege, like the successor to that series, but yeah. It's been, like I said, it's been a cluster around here. Hopefully you guys have had a better week than I've had. It's been a little stressful. It's like Carl said, rum and Coke. I need a freaking rum and Coke. The only thing I have alcoholic in the house is Manischewitz, which is, it's like a super cheap wine that I like. But I'm not in the mood to be drinking wine today. I probably should have before I streamed. Just before I started, I was screaming at my cat because he was driving me nuts. He's the worst in the winter. He always either wants, if he's inside, he wants outside, and if he's outside, he wants inside. And he, like, scratches on the door and hangs off the handle and does it on either side of the door, depending on where he happens to be. It drives me nuts. But no, if anybody has any advice, I kind of wanted to do that on stream today, but my setup won't really facilitate that. like I said, I was messing with my coast settings, and I think the issue is that I'm using a smaller nozzle, which leads to like a little bit more back pressure inside the hot end. But yeah, I did some test pieces, and it's kind of crazy how sensitive some of those settings are. Like the restart. I wish I could pull up Simplify to show you guys. The restart distance. I kind of want to just move my webcam over, but I think we've gone too far. Roder said he's never used coasting. Have you tried more or faster retract? Yeah, I did. Those were some of the settings I messed with. It seemed to be the case that a slower retract speed helped a bit. Because with the smaller nozzle, I think we're just trying to relieve that back pressure a little. Well, I guess that's what retract does in general, but it seemed to help, but I don't know. It's tough to say. Because like some things, like say you have two separate settings that when you modify them, they seem to alleviate the problem a little bit, but then when you combine them, they seem to cause a problem themselves. Like I was using the coasting and a slower retract, but with the coasting and slower retract on the same test piece, it seemed to cause more problems than existed in the first place. What are your thoughts regarding 3D printing and its health issues? I don't know. That's actually something I was hoping to do some reading on this week. Like obviously there had been talk about it before, but then with this incident and that I think it was in Berkeley, that couple that was found dead in their house, it kind of like brought it to the forefront again. And it's kind of funny how things like that happen. I don't think any of the related health discussion has to do specifically with them, because I think there was again, like the media is so terrible. There were conflicting reports about what the actual cause of death was, but the talk about like 3D printing and health again hasn't really centered around like carbon monoxide or anything. It's just like the general, you know, are there any long-term effects to exposing ourselves to the fumes that, you know, are put in the air from like PLA and ABS? I think there's a little bit of health risk. Why again? I like hesitate to say anything. Now that we do have a little bit of an audience, like I hesitate to say anything without knowing definitively. I don't like to do that, but I like there are some filaments I would assume, which probably isn't good to assume, but there are some filaments I would assume there are like some inherent risks using. Like most things, I don't think like brief exposure is a problem, but like some things, if you're going to be printing it like all day every day and you're going to be in close proximity to your machine, you might want to go out of your way to make sure you have like good ventilation. Do I plan on adding ventilation to my shop? I don't at the moment, simply because I don't have an easy way to do it. It's definitely something I'd like to do. Even though I print mostly in PLA, PLA does have an odor. Like all of you, I'm sure, have printed with PLA, and it does have a little bit of an odor. I can't really smell it anymore. I remember when I first started, like I could smell it like a lot. Like I'd leave the house and come back, and you could just really smell it. But my body doesn't seem to be able to detect it anymore. Like I'll be down here printing for hours on end, and I can't smell it at all. Roder said he's also used the 0.2. Well, this is actually with the 0.35. This isn't even like a tiny nozzle. Does Slicer even have coasting? That's a good question. I actually don't know, because I haven't used Slicer in a while. I've only used Simplify ever since I got it. So I don't know. I would assume that it has, even if it doesn't have it like as a separate setting. It's probably baked into another setting because it is kind of something that you need to do. Even with like aggressive retract settings, you're going to have back pressure as you near like the end of an extrusion line, and you know you want to move the nozzle somewhere else. Warboy said he had the same problems with retraction and stringing with some prints. Turns out my E-step setting. What is an E-step? I actually don't know what you mean by that. PLA does have it's kind of a unique, because it definitely smells like organic to me, at least, but it has that weird like sweet smell. The biggest kind of dose of it I had was when I first started, I don't know why I keep wanting to say when I first got my printer, and I had that roll of PLA that I was worried about moisture in, and I stuck it in the oven to dehydrate it a bit, and the temperature was a little too high, so the whole house smelled like that kind of like strong, sweet, organic kind of PLA smell. Oh, okay, your east. Okay, I get what you're saying. Uh, so the E steps Warboy was referring to are the number of like actual steps the stepper motor has to turn to get a given amount of movement. Um, yeah, I don't know. I would assume that's like set in the firmware. I wonder. I wouldn't think that'd be something would need changed, or could be changed accidentally. But no, I guess it's anything's worth checking, I guess, as long as it's not too much of a pain. Hi Josh, what's up? Oh yeah, and hi everybody in the chat. Like I said, 30 seconds before I started the stream, I was like screaming at my cat, so I was a little stressed out. But no, hopefully everything looks okay. Like I said, it's not done yet, and it's not really what I was hoping it would be at this point. So the biggest pain, like I've gotten a lot of questions, especially private messages, about like what's involved with streaming and stuff, and like getting stuff set up isn't too bad, but the worst is lighting. Lighting is horrible. Like you can see like some things like the glare, it's hard to get that balance of like having everything like lit properly without getting glare on anything that happens to be pointing in a way that, you know, will reflect on the camera. Ralph, is that Captain and Coke? No, it's just regular Coke, unfortunately. That was one of the first comments of the stream. Rum and Coke. I wish I had some rum and Coke right now. Plus it's afternoon, right? It's after 12 o'clock. That's fine. Nice man cave. Yeah, this was these are two like false walls that I was using for another project, and we kind of need to consolidate space in the basement. Like I'll try to rotate it without screwing everything up. You see my other camera isn't hooked up there, unfortunately. But the workbench is actually right over here. Bam. So this, like, all this stuff used to be on the other side of the basement, but like I said, we had to consolidate some space. We have, I guess I'm gonna make an announcement on the channel at some point. I don't think anybody cares, but there's a change coming in our lives that required us to consolidate some space for storage and stuff. So I had to do that, and it makes it more convenient. Like I said, the workflow still isn't what I'd like it to be. I think the computer and stuff needs moved closer over here, but it's tough getting everything kind of sorted out. Chris, you're crazy. But we do already have a daughter. I'm sure some of, or most of you probably already knew, but some people might not have. But I do have a 2-year-old daughter already. But no, it's tough, because I'd kind of like to have it set up like it's kind of two sides. I'd like to have like classic tabletop RPG crap over here, and then like the retro gaming stuff. Like I have most of my cartridges. I don't have a ton of NES games, but I do have, I don't know, if I had to guess, there's about, I don't know, 27 or 28 games on a rack. So I don't know. There's a couple games. I don't know. I probably have like 150 games, something like that, which isn't crazy. I mean, I know guys that have 500 and 600, almost have complete collections, minus like the super crazy expensive stuff. But no, the walls are a little longer, so I'd like to be able to set the camera up like over here to the side more, and be able to use like this set for certain things, and then like turn it this way, and there'd be 3D printing stuff mixed in all amongst all this stuff. Once I start printing again, like I said, I did check my machine the other day. I have, what was it, like 780 hours of print time on the MK2. So it's about time to make a review, I think. I was watching Jatman, another 3D printing YouTuber, last night, and he was doing a video about like the expectations that YouTubers and companies should have of each other while doing like product reviews and stuff. And it kind of like, I don't know, it kind of motivated me to do the MK2 review. I've been putting it off for a long time, but it's if any of you have made like video content, like streams are one thing, but doing the pre-recorded stuff is kind of another thing. There's a whole different like set of stresses that come with that, because like once you put something on YouTube, like obviously you can delete the video, but for the most part, like it's a finished work that's up there forever. And I've talked about it before, like I just have hesitations about doing like the actual reviews. I haven't actually reviewed anything yet, and I don't know, I just want it to be honest, but at the same time, like I don't know, it's tough. I'm extremely undecided about how to handle it. Because it's funny how the reviews of the MK2 have gone over time. Like when they first started, like the first initial reviews were just as glowing as a review could possibly be, really. And then like Jatman talked about that, like how as time went along, like people had more and more criticisms, and then like because the initial reviews were so positive, like people who had criticisms of it, like it gave them some like I don't know, increased credibility kind of by default, because they were, you know, I don't know, the whole like counter current culture kind of thing. But no, I need to do it. I still haven't recorded any videos, which irritates me to no end. Especially considering I had like a few videos recorded that were supposed to be released periodically over, you know, right about now. But yeah, I was hoping to have like some terrain painted. I did. It's like such a random purchase. I was looking into getting a wireless lav mic, like a little one that would clip on your shirt and then just be like wireless. You don't have to deal with all this crap. They are not cheap. Holy hell. I don't know if any of you guys have ever looked at those. One of the cheapest reasonable quality options for a wireless lav is about $400, and it's only a single mic, which is enough for me, but still. I wasn't expecting them to be quite that expensive. Holy crap. So I was looking around, and I just couldn't like justify the purchase. Like I just don't have the money to spend. So I bought an airbrush. So we're going to be airbrushing some prints in the near future, which is cool. Like I like painting, but airbrushing's, it's a skill that takes a little bit of time to develop, but it's a lot easier than like brush painting. It's a little more forgiving once you develop the skill for it. Brush painting's a little tough. But so we're going to be doing that, and I'm interested to see how that will work for some prints, because there's actually like the airbrush I got's kind of like moderately priced, but there's actually some really cheap options for airbrushes. I remember when I was a kid, I got like a little like Tamiya airbrush kit for like 30 or 40 bucks, and you don't have a lot of control over everything you're doing, obviously, but it does work. So I'm anxious to see like what kind of possibilities that opens up, like finishing prints, like the dungeon tiles and stuff. At the very least, like I'm sure all of you have used like some spray paint to like base coat your prints and stuff. At the very least, it'll allow me to do the base coating on my prints inside, because as it is, like you can't spray paint inside. Like I do it a little bit if there's only like a tiny amount, like a couple squirts, and I can cover some stuff up. But it smells so bad. Like we were talking about, you know, fumes from 3D printing. Fumes from aerosol is not good. The Makis highly recommend the Iwata. I wanted to get an Iwata, like it's the go-to recommendation. I ended up getting a Master, I think C223, which is like a decent. It's still an entry level airbrush for sure, but it's like at the higher end of entry level airbrushes. It's a dual action. If anybody's looking to get an airbrush, I would recommend you get a dual action. Like the one I had as a kid, when you press the button, air and paint comes out, and you can't really control it very much. And a dual action, when you press the button, it'll start your airflow, and then you can pull back on the button as it's pressed to release paint. So it gives you a lot more control. Warboy said he was printing out some MWO models. Well, that's actually a video I wanted to have done. Where is it at? Just a second, let me find this stuff. Because this is something I really wanted to get to the bottom of also. I have 3 different kinds of primer here, and this is like the cheapest brand that Walmart makes, the Home Shades primer. I think this stuff's like 87 cents a can, somewhere in that region, like ridiculously cheap. And then you have this like Krylon kind of like improved coverage primer, which I've used. It's fine. And then this is something we've all heard about. I ran up the steps too fast. I'm out of shape in the winter. But this is a filler primer. Like they use this in the automotive industry. And I have not used it at all yet. But I want to do... hopefully this weekend I'll get to shoot some video on it. But because I'm like you, Warboy. Like I have prints that I want to finish. You can sand stuff, but some things aren't really conducive to sanding. Like I have some MWO stuff. Like this fellow right here. This is one of the MWO models. And you can just see without looking up close that you can't sand everything on this. There are some of the surfaces that you can get to, and even those, like if anybody sanded PLA, it's a pain. It's a very hard material that takes quite a bit of effort to sand the lines out of. So, like this cheap primer, I really like this. I've always used this for painting like my Wargaming minis because you can use very light coats. It goes on very light, which kind of isn't good when you're trying to cover up layer lines. It just paints them. It doesn't cover them up at all. And then, like I got this stuff. This is kind of in between the two. Like this goes on fairly heavy. Which is why I've always avoided it for painting miniatures, because it actually like hides detail. And it kind of does cover up layer lines a little bit, but nothing significant. And it doesn't sand all that well. You can sand it, but this stuff supposedly is made specifically to go in like very thick, very heavy, and then be sanded. So I'm kind of anxious to see like how well this actually does work. It's still kind of an involved process that takes a lot of effort, because you'll have to coat it and then sand it and then coat it again and ideally sand it again. But I'm hoping that it does help, because like those dungeon tiles, they look really good. Some of you guys might some of you guys might have experienced that as well. A print will look fantastic, and then you'll paint it and you'll be like, oh shit, there's a lot more layer lines on there than I realized. Because when something like this, when it's all one color, you just get that kind of sheen with the layer lines, and they don't actually look too bad. But then when you paint it, it gets like a matte finish, and you can really like, it accentuates like those layer lines. Oh, sorry, something went down the wrong hole. But for pre-paint prepping, it depends on the print. Like some of those big dungeon tiles, they have flat areas on them, and they're easy to sand. Like you just start with kind of a rough paper, like I don't know, like a 320 or something, and then finish with like a 600 grit, something like that. And they turn out like fantastically. But then some prints like these, if any of you saw the little mushroom men I made, you essentially can't sand them. You can get some of the like the rounded areas that are easy to get to, but all of that internal detail, like anything on like concave surfaces that are small, are really, really hard to get to. Yeah, like the Mackies. The key words in his statement are geometry permitting, and that's like the whole thing. Because like models like this, there's just areas you can't get to. People will recommend the little files, but even those, like they're flat. They're long flat surfaces, and they can't get in some of these areas. So yeah, I'm really anxious to try out the filler primer. I don't think it's going to be like a silver bullet to like eliminating layer lines, but hopefully it helps. Yeah, Warboy, you're definitely not the only one to struggle with that. That's why if you look at a lot of the like high-end prop channels on YouTube that do like very, very nice ones, like the guys that you'll see, I can't remember what it was, but I remember seeing the one guy that did like a helmet that looked like chrome. It was perfectly smooth, like super shiny, like almost like a mirror finish. A lot of those guys end up printing their stuff out, and then they'll take Bondo and completely cover it and then sand it down. And that's the only one of the, not the only way, but one of the easiest ways to get like a super smooth finish on your prints. Like obviously you want to get them as smooth as possible coming out of the printer, but even at super high resolutions with a FDM printer, there's going to be lines even on the like most high-end printers. So filler primer is better than the XTC 3D. Is that the Ulysses? Is that the kind of epoxy stuff that you coat models with? I wasn't like a huge fan of that. I've watched several videos. I know Angus did a video, and there's a couple other smaller YouTubers that did videos on that. And I didn't really, I don't know, I wasn't a fan. That seems like a mess, and it seems to give like, I don't know, kind of okay results. You have a couple Shadowhawk torsos. That's pretty cool, man. That's I assume you play MWO. That's like one of the my favorite inner sphere mediums. Yeah, exactly, Ulysses. It goes on way too thick. There's probably ways you could thin it. Like you could probably use a solvent that's compatible with it and thin it a little bit, but it's like you would be undermining the results, I think, because the thinner it is, the less it's actually going to like bridge the gaps between layer lines and accomplish what you're trying to do. And the thicker it is, the better it's going to hide layer lines, but then it just kind of like annihilates detail. Like I couldn't imagine a model like this would look horrible with that stuff. It's probably good if you're gonna if you're gonna be printing out like an Iron Man mask and you coat it. Like I think the model that Angus did was a big I can't remember the name of them. The big Deathclaw. I think that's what he did. And it was like okay on that, but even that model, it was kind of not kind to the detail of it. You know, at that point with that stuff, I'd probably rather just print out of ABS and do some acetone smoothing. I think in the long run that would actually be easier. I'll go back. Chris had asked a little bit before about Chris Bishop, the OctoPrint. I have looked at it. It's relatively inexpensive to get into, and there doesn't seem to be many drawbacks really. Like a lot of the guys that have switched over that really love it, and depending on how much time you want to spend on like setting it up and stuff, it allows you to do all kinds of cool things. Like you can monitor your prints remotely, which really no other solutions allow you to do unless you want to hook up like a webcam and stream it through a PC or something. But no, the OctoPrint setup is kind of cool, I think. Yeah, the wood filler works also, but there's really no. I wish there was an easy way. I wish there was a way to smooth PLA in an easy way. Like I know there's that chemical you can get, but everyone I've ever talked to about it says that it is awful. It is like so bad to be to expose yourself to. So I don't think I guess if you had like a single print you'd want to smooth, it might be worth looking into, but if you're like me, you're going to be doing these things for a long time. Like I'm going to be doing like dozens and dozens and dozens, probably several hundred prints a year, that I'm going to be finishing. And if that's the case, you're not going to want to be exposing yourself to something nasty on a regular basis. Yeah, acetone can make your prints shrink a little bit, but most of the prints you're trying to smooth probably aren't going to be like dimensionally that important. Like something like this, if it would shrink, 1 or 2%, it would make absolutely no difference to me. Mockies likes his OctoPrint setup. No, it seems pretty cool. For in my situation, for no other purpose than to be able to like remotely move jobs to the printer, even if you still have to go and manually like start them and stuff. But if any of you watched the battle that I fought with the what is that called, the that wireless SD card, I can't think of the name of it, the Toshiba Air something. OctoPrint is easier to set up than that. And I know there was like a lot of, I don't know if it's anybody here, but a lot of people, like probably a dozen people sent me links to tutorials and stuff about setting that up. But the Flash Air, that's right. A lot of people sent me tutorials, but it was one of those things where I had already read every tutorial. I don't ultimately know what the problem was, but it was one of those situations where we had everything set up correctly, yet it wasn't working. So yeah, showing me tutorials wasn't really helping much. I know, I don't think it's anybody that was in here, but the one guy, he was like helping out, and he showed me a copy of his working config file, and we copied it exactly, and it still wasn't working. Because I think he thought I was ignoring him, so I finally just like copied his setup verbatim, and it still didn't work, and he was like, oh, okay, I see you have another problem. It's like, yes, exactly. Yes. Welcome to the same page. Is that Star Siege Tribes? No, this is a better game than Tribes. This is actual just Star Siege. This was the mech game. This is one of my favorite mech games. Like, I like this better than Mech Warrior, actually. That game was freaking great. But it's like a lot of older games. Like, the multiplayer for that game was amazing. So was the single player game. But the community is kind of dead now. There's some private servers that people run, but there's never anybody on them, so... Rodder uses Repetier host. Yeah, I've heard a lot of good things about that. Basically, any of the alternative mini PC kind of piggyback setups, people seem to like it. So I think the general consensus is that anything is better. Anything is an upgrade from the SD card. Butthurt never even heard of that game. Yeah, Star Siege Tribes was like the predecessor to this game. What is the date on this? The box is dated 98. So, I think Tribes was 99 or 2000, if I remember correctly. But yeah, they do have like the same logoing and stuff, basically. Because, like I said, this is like the mech game, and then Tribes was like the I forget what they called them. I want to say Elementals, but I think that was from BattleTech. But Star Siege Tribes was like the infantry game, because they were supposed to. I don't think it ever actually came out. They were supposed to do like a combined arms game where it had like the mechs and the infantry, kind of like MechWarrior Legends. If any of you have seen that game, where it has the mechs and like infantry guys like interacting with each other, and it's really cool. But that's the original Star Siege. I played a lot of that game. That was one of the first games I was in like a serious clan that we actually did like competitive play and stuff. I took that game seriously. That was on dial-up. That was back in the dial-up days too. That was when I was exposed to boating for the first time. Like I remember there were some of the chassis where you could take like 4 or 5 of the one tracking missile pod setups, and it was like ridiculous. Like I said, it's a great game. The campaign is really cool. Like the premise of the game is like there's the humans that have like all the robots and stuff, and then there was like the aliens that basically invaded the planet and stuff, and they were trying to kill like the Emperor. And the cool thing is you can play the campaign from both sides, which was really, really sweet. And the technology on either side is completely different. Like I always thought it was sweet that the aliens had radiation weapons, where they intentionally tried to not destroy the mech, like your robot. They would shoot you and try to actually get pilot kills. They would try to like radiate you to death, so they could salvage the entire mech with everything intact. That was always really cool to me, instead of like trying to blow everything up. Warboy said he had problems with Repetier. Yeah, because if it actually works like it's tethered, meaning that it has to have like constant input from it. Yeah, I don't know. I know there's like layers to the onion with all of that stuff. Like Rodder said, you can use like their specific firmware or use the Marlin firmware that the MK2 comes with, and you'll probably have a different experience depending on like what route you choose to go. But for now, I'm happy with the Flash Air. It seems to work. The only complaint I had at first was we didn't put the wireless G and N tags in, so it was running at, oh my god, it was so slow. I remember I transferred like an 18 meg file, and it took like 12 minutes to transfer. But I went back and edited the config file and turned on the faster wireless formats, and it fixed it right up. But now I'm kind of pumped to have this set up. I'd like to, like, we probably won't broadcast or anything, but I'd like to like do some role playing down here. We have this round table. This is probably not going to be here long term. I have the old table that I used to use over there, but I'm kind of torn. Like, if you saw when I rotated the camera, like I have a desk and stuff over there, but like I said in the last update video, I don't like how close the camera is. Like even this setup here, which I don't really like. I don't think this is ideal. But I at least have this like area here where, you know, I can work on stuff. Like I have shit sitting here and you can see it without, you know, I don't know. And I don't have that over there, and it kind of sucks. Because I think like, as much as I don't want to do it, even though I do kind of want to do it, next Tuesday when I stream, I think we're going to take the IGUS bearings out of the Y-axis and put the original linear bearings in. Now that I've had a few hundred hours of printing with the IGUS, I want to put the original bearings in and like compare kind of the experience. Jonathan, how do you get your bald head that smooth? Well, I just shaved it like I shave it with a razor, and I just shaved it like 20 minutes ago, so that's part of it. Plus, there's a light up here. They call it a hair light. It's like, because I kind of have like a 3-light setup. I actually have a light on that I didn't want to have on. Let's see if that makes a difference with the lighting. But if you watch any like basic lighting tutorials, that's why I'd like to do a little bit of content on like the setup for streaming, because I know there's some guys that want to do their own streams, and like I love the idea of having a community. Like I think the more people that do content, the better off we all are. But if you do basic lighting, like I have like a 3-point setup where there's a light here, there's a light here, and then there's a hair light that's kind of behind you. That like it just puts. It's not supposed to put this much sheen on it. Like you're supposed to have hair for the hair light, I think, but it just makes you stand out from the background a little bit, so you don't seem like I'm just like, I don't know. I know with perspective and stuff, it seems like I'm rubbing against this television behind me, but I'm actually not. But yeah, that's why it looks so shiny. And again, this is not an ideal setup. This is I was throwing this together moments before I started the stream, so. Yeah. But it does, I don't know, it is weird. I always would see guys when I was younger, and it's like you'd be in a restaurant or something, and their head is like shiny. It's like the light is glaring into your eyes. And I always wondered, like, how the hell do they do that? Are they like polishing their head or something? But as soon as I started shaving it, no, it's just like naturally shiny. I don't know what it is. It's ridiculous. I'm sure pulling prints off a fixed bed. Yeah, well, I mean, you don't want to be. You don't want to be cranking on it like an idiot, obviously. Like I did when I first got the printer. I was just like prying my brains out. There's definitely like a technique to develop getting prints off of your build surface. There were some posts recently in the 3D printing group where people shattered their glass build plates because they were getting a little aggressive. But yeah, there's definitely like a technique to getting them off without using like an excessive amount of pressure. Like with my scraper, you can hurt yourself if you're not careful. You definitely have to go about it kind of intelligently. But I would really love, I don't know of an easy way to do it, but if you've ever seen those linear bearings where they're not actually bearings, they're those like slider things that kind of go on lubricated rails and they can only move one direction. Printers that have those really appeal to me. I wish there was a way that we could change our MK2 to do that, because there is like no play in those. They are like perfectly, it's almost like, I don't like roller coasters. Not really, I guess, but. Are those CDs in the back? No, these are not CDs in the back. These are NES cartridges. Bam. NES games. Like Mario 2. I have like several copies of that. No, those are all NES games. And there's some N64. I don't think you can see those. There's some N64 games down here and like Super Nintendo and a couple other things. My dad found this in Florida at the flea market. That's a NES Advantage stick, like new in box, sealed. That's pretty cool. I like my retro gaming stuff. I'd travel back in time if I could, I think. I want to take my I want to take like some modern stuff like yeah. I'd want to take my MK2 back to 1985 if I ever went, but yeah, linear rails, I guess that's what I was trying to say. Linear rails, they really appeal to me. They seem to like eliminate a lot of the tolerance issues and stuff, because the tolerances are just like a little bit tighter. You got an N64 playing Donkey Kong. That was never like a game that I got into, but it is a good game. My wife really likes Donkey Kong. Basically anymore, like 98% of the stuff that gets done on this Nintendo or this CRT monitor is Mario Kart 64. That's like one of the few N64 games I play on a regular basis. Yeah, I think with a little bit of ingenuity, you could put one of those rail systems on the MK2. The big thing, yeah, I don't know. There would be some hurdles, but I don't think they're insurmountable. It would just take a little bit of time and ingenuity. Did I ever play ESO? A little bit when it first came out. Like I played in the beta, and then I played it a little bit when it first came out. And at the time, I was in a raiding guild playing WoW, so it was kind of hard to switch over. But yeah, Smash and Mario Kart, yeah, classic. NBA Jam on the Super NES, yeah, great game. I somehow skipped the Super NES though. I had like an NES as a kid, and it was actually my parents, which people always think that's funny. The NES we had was actually my parents, that they just allowed me to play sometimes. Like a lot of kids, their parents bought it for them, but my parents actually played hours more than I did. I just like got to mess around with like Mario Brothers and stuff occasionally. But somehow I missed the Super Nintendo, because I had an NES for like 8 or 9 years, and then got like a 64, and never had an Super. And I always used to play it at people's houses. Like, do any of you remember going to people's houses? And the first thing I'd do as a kid would be to look at their entertainment center to see if they had like a Nintendo or something. And if they did, I just like bugged them until they let me play it. Yeah, the MK2X, there's actually, if you join the Slack group, I don't have a link for it, unfortunately, right now, but if you look on some previous videos, there's links to the Slack group. There's a few guys that actually watch my channel on a regular basis that have done the MK2X kind of upgrade with the 3030 extruded rails, and they still use smooth rods for the Y-axis. I think if you would go to that extruded base, like if you guys have seen like the square extruded aluminum rails and stuff that people replace the frame with, yeah, Ryan is, he's got it. slack.codehemi.com. I think if you'd go to those extruded rails, it would make putting the linear rails on a lot easier, because you'd have like a nice, the Haribo edition. Exactly, John. It's the Haribo edition. But I think with those square extruded rails, you'd have like a lot easier time mounting the linear rails to that. But even that edition, I think, uses smooth rods, the polished like chrome rods. But I think they're fine. I don't know. If you're a tinkerer, nothing's ever done. You're never done with something. It's always like tweaking and fiddling. Ryan, that would be sweet. Like I said, there's just something like as time passes, I think the rods are fine. Like I think on the Z-axis they're fine, but for the Y-axis, where you want no movement, you only want that linear movement, I think they're kind of a better solution. I think they would allow like a little better registry of the bed to the axis itself, because once you have them, it might be a little tougher to like calibrate it initially, but once you did it, you've pretty much eliminated any wiggle and stuff. Because I would assume any of those would go to like four mounts, which again, Makes it tougher to set up initially, but once you have it set up, I think it would be superior. But no, it's definitely cool. I've talked about that before. I'd like to do that this year sometime. I'm hoping maybe halfway through this year I'll be able to afford to get a second MK2, because whenever they release the multi-material upgrade, I'm going to be getting one of those, and I'd really like to have kind of like a virgin MK2 to print with, which is funny. It's funny I say that, and then I'm gonna replace the frame on it, but I'd like to have one with the multi-material and then another one that's just like a rock solid production printer that I can just like have running 24/7. The printer bot has linear rails, but wish it had Prusa firmware. But no, that'd be cool. We should all push Joseph to upgrade to the linear rails just to see how they work out. Because I have that IGUS box. They sent me a box with like a whole bunch of like samples and stuff, and they just work so great. Like the tolerances are so great on those linear rail bearing bushing kind of things. Oh, that's true, John. John pointed out, if you guys like ever see pictures, I wish I could link stuff, but I can't. I really can't with my laptop. It's terrible. I'm afraid it'll like crash or freeze. If you see the 3030 Haribo edition upgrade, you actually don't need to buy an entire printer. If you buy the kit, because some people, like obviously there's an MK2, which means an MK1 existed. You can buy an upgrade kit to turn an MK1 into a 2, and it actually has, I would say, 65 or 70% of the hardware that you need, minus the frame. I think there's a few things that you need to source, like I think you need to pick yourself up a heat bed and a couple other miscellaneous things, but I think it has all the extruder motors, and I don't want to list things because I'm probably getting it wrong, but it has the bulk of the hardware that you need, and it's a lot cheaper than buying a printer just to like throw the frame and stuff away. Well, not throw it away, you know, but not use it. Are you hoping to get a better quality? It's sort of, like I said, the main reason is now that I have several hundred hours printing on the IGUS bushings, like I do have a little bit of play in my y-axis, and I think there's more play than there was when I initially installed the bushings. So the main reason is I'd like to do a video about the IGUS bushings, like in retrospect, now that I've used them for a while, because I think more and more users are having like minor issues. It's nothing I think that justifies not changing them over, but I just like to go back to the linear bearings and use them for a while again and compare that to the experience I've had with the bushings since I've printed with them for so long. I think it would just give me like a more complete view of everything. But thanks. I'm trying. Hopefully next week everything will be done. Hopefully lighting will be better. I know it's not like terrible right now, but it's not the best. I'm a picky bastard. Which is why it's driving me crazy that I have like the little window up there for the second camera overlay, and it's not there. If you don't have the IGUS bearings press fit. Yeah, I've heard that. It's funny. I was supposed to have, they kind of broke communication with me. I was supposed to have an IGUS rep come over and actually do a video with me about the different things, but I don't know why exactly, but they haven't really been communicating a whole lot recently. And I think, I don't know, it's all speculation, but I don't know. I don't know why. Do you have a baseline print when new? No, I don't actually. Well, I do have some of the sample files that I had printed out initially, and the quality with the original linear bearings is not a problem. Like all the original test prints I did are fantastic. They're really really fantastic. That's why I'm curious to see if when I move the linear bearings back onto the y-axis, if there's as much play as there is with the I-guess bushings. Like I kind of suspect the I-guess bushings have worn a bit, and that's why the tolerances are a little like poorer than they were when I first installed them, because they were fine at first. But there definitely seems to be more play in the y-axis. The x-axis still seems fine. I don't know why. I don't really think there's any less movement in the x-axis. I don't know if they just wear better for some reason. I don't really know. I don't know what the explanation is there. But yeah, Ulysses, there's so much conflicting information. Like I know a lot of people say if you don't press fit them, they will have play in them. But if you talk to an I-guess rep, they claim that's not true. Because a lot of the applications for these bearings, they're actually not press fit. They will have a holder, and if you watch a video, like I printed the holders for my y-axis, so they're not zip tied. They're actually in printed bearing holders or bushing holders. So it's hard to tell what is actually true about those things. I did see that they. I didn't actually look, but it appeared that they make cased ones that have the same outer dimensions as the uncased ones, and I'm interested to see if they have any better tolerances on the rails that came with the MK2. If you've ever seen the design of the I-guess bearings, they have these like little pyramid kind of things that go in and press against the rod, and it looks like the other ones are just like a solid circle that fits over the rail. So I'm kind of interested to see if that like improves the tolerances at all. Benchies. I've actually never printed a benchy. I don't know how I've managed to do that, but I've never printed one. I was going to. I remember it was probably a month or two ago. I was going to print one, and I downloaded it and pulled it into the slicer, and it was like I forget what it was. It was like over a 3-hour print. I was like, I'm not doing that. I had other stuff I had to print at the time. Mockies, they expect you to use the aluminum rods. I agree, and they're not all that expensive. But the samples they sent me, the tolerances, I don't know if it was just because it was like a small sample, but the tolerances of their aluminum rod on the I-guess bushings was not impressive in my opinion. I could be wrong. I think that's what I thought at the time. Since everything is freaking piled up all over the place, I happen to have this sitting right over there. Let me pull that out again. I know the one thing of theirs that does impress me are their lead screws. My God, are the tolerances on this thing ever impressive? There is absolutely no play in that. Like, there is zero play in that, and it moves so smoothly. That just like blows my mind that there's no play in that. Like, that fits perfectly. But all right, so we have like an 8mm sample rod here, right? And let me grab some bushings. I actually happen to have one of each kind on hand from their Oh, they're actually not bad. They're actually fine. It's kind of interesting to me that the RJ4JP, the kind that most of us, if we've done the upgrade, have on our machine, there's actually quite a bit of drag on the rod. And then the other kind, these lighter ones, the RJMP, the tolerances are actually a little bit looser. Like, these ones slide a lot better. But like the cased one, this case one actually has worse tolerances than the other ones. These other ones actually fit tighter, especially the RJ4JP. This one actually grips the rail a little bit. I think there's actually a little too much friction on that one. But I don't know. I don't know. Maybe I should do that. Maybe I should contact them. I mean, I'd like to do all the above. I'd like to put the linear bearings back on and run them for a little bit and see how I feel about them. And like I said, I don't think their anodized aluminum rods are all that expensive. I think, again, this is totally off memory, but I think when I priced these, they were only like $8 or $12, something like that a piece. And you'd only need 2. So that's actually not bad. But these all, I think they have worn. I think the bushings on my machine on the Prusa rods have worn because these all have better tolerances than I think the bushings on my machine do. And you can, like people say, if I squeeze this, and you have to squeeze it fairly hard, you can compress these. But you can't compress the cased ones, obviously. I mean, like I say, it's looser. It's only by like a absolutely minuscule, probably irrelevant amount. But they do seem to be like a slightly looser fit. Maybe not. I don't know. It's so hard to tell. It's probably an irrelevant amount. I probably shouldn't have said that. But it's definitely a looser fit than the RJ4JPs, the grayer ones. But I don't know. Like, just, I kind of like these. I know it's kind of hard to see. Like, see how these are smooth? I don't know if it's focusing enough to see that. These ones don't have the serrations. And then both of these other types, they have, like, those serrations inside. And I just imagine these would probably wear a little better. And it could be the case that they just wear a little more quickly on the Prusa rods than these anodized aluminum ones, because these ones are very smooth. Maybe that's like part of the reason they... Just you say that like I haven't read everything that's available on them. That's the whole point, GGO, is that there's conflicting information. I would assume I've read probably literally every post anybody's ever made about IGUS bushings. And it's just like you and someone else said that you need a pressure fit. The reps from IGUS actually disagree with you. I had 2 different reps that I talked to on different occasions that said that is not true. These do not need compression fits to change the inner diameter. They need compression fits so they don't move along the rod. They don't actually need compressed to be dimensionally correct. The only reason they have these rings for compression fittings is so that when your rod is moving, your bushing doesn't shift out of the thing that it's in. So yeah, like I said, there's so much conflicting information about them. And like you just said, what you just said gets passed around as if it's gospel, that these need press fitted, and it's actually not true according to IGUS themselves. Lagus, those must be the ones that I mentioned earlier, the thin-walled, because I saw pictures of those. They didn't used to have those, but they must be like these cased bearings that have the same outer diameter as the smaller, the RJ4JPs, which are dimensionally identical to the actual linear bearings. Because these like lighter yellow ones, they're slightly bigger with the outer dimensions, and same with the cased bearings. These are bigger than the linear bearings are. But now I'm interested to see how they handle, because the nice thing about those is they're direct drop-in replacements. Like these cased ones are nice bearings. I think they're fine. They might ideally be the way to go. They're a little more expensive, but like in your Y-axis or your X-axis assembly, you can't actually drop these in. They're too big. They won't fit in the recesses for the linear bearings. That's why people use the RJ4JPs. Yeah, Dawn, apparently that is what Prusa has been saying. They've been advising people not to do the IGUS bushing updates. That's why I'd like to go back to the linear bearings, and then like someone suggested, I probably should get a set of these rods because they are relatively inexpensive from IGUS, the anodized ones. Because maybe it's the case that the IGUS the bushings are like a fine route to take, but you should probably replace your rods if you do it. I still have absolutely zero problems with my x-axis. I think they're still fantastic in there. The tolerances are great. Like if I grab the whole print head and wiggle it, there's no play. So I still think they're fine in there. I just think for the y-axis, I don't know. I kind of have mixed feelings about them. It might just be the case that because there's, I don't know, there just must be something about the y-axis that's making them wear a little faster than the x. Even though there shouldn't. I mean, you figure, like, say you're printing like a circle or something, there's going to be as much movement in the x-axis as there is the y, so I don't think there's any more movement there, but I don't know. They seem to be wearing a little more quickly. Oh, they're slightly longer. I wonder if that's a problem. I know like in the y-axis you have plenty of room for extra length. From memory, I would say you probably have another 3 to 5 millimeters of extra length in the slots on the carriage. So that shouldn't be a problem, but I know it's a little bit tighter in the x-axis. I think you only have a millimeter or 2 of extra space in those little recesses. How long into runtime did I see noticeable wear? Like I said, I think I have about 780 hours on this machine of actual print time, and I would guess I changed to the bushings at probably between 100 and 150 hours of runtime. So I probably have 600 plus hours on these IGUS bushings. So, yeah. I mean, you definitely need to run your machine a good bit before you're going to notice anything, but I think I am to the point where I do notice a little bit of wear in the y-axis. Like I said, the x-axis is still fine. They are still a-okay. I am not going to touch those. We had discussed previously, one of the guys from the Slack group had bought some fairly high-end linear bearings, and I was interested in trying them, but I don't know. Like, the more I think about it, I just can't justify. I think they were between $20 and $28 a piece, and I just can't justify that, really. Even just to replace the 3 in the y-axis, I think that's a little much. Gusner, hi from Belgium. Hate YouTube, got no notification. Yeah, YouTube's been kind of dropping the ball lately. There's a couple guys that I watch that stream that I haven't been getting their notifications, and I even hit the stupid bell. They introduced like another step to actually get alerts from people, and like even if you do it, they appear to still be kind of dropping the ball. What is a good printer to use? Keta C. I only have the MK2, and I can't. My secondary camera is not working, so I can't actually show you. I use the Prusa i3 MK2, like the original actual Prusa one, and I absolutely love it. I think it's a fantastic printer. It's more expensive than basically every other i3 option available right now, but like I got it and assembled the kit, and I was printing basically perfect prints from day one, and that's something that you can't do with most of the i3 clones. Like, you're gonna have to do a little bit of tweaking and fiddling and stuff. I think you can get like a couple of the guys that I talk to on a regular basis have the Wanhao duplicator i3s, and Some of those guys get really good results, but you're not going to get it from day one. They're gonna require some tuning and a couple upgrades, and yeah. But Dawn, yeah, I mean, the only thing, like, if you still have the zip ties on your y-axis, it's a really quick switch. You basically only have to pop your rods up, slide the bed off, cut your zip ties, put the old ones back in, and zip tie them back in, which isn't, you don't have to take the heat bed off. The problem is like, I upgraded to the printed bearing holders for the y-axis, and they're screwed in from the top of the carriage plate. So to take them off, I need to actually remove the heat bed from that like X frame and change them, and then put the heat bed back on, which kind of sucks, but yeah, I mean, Keta, I wouldn't make a decision like based on me saying something. I'm just a dude sitting in his basement with a webcam, but it's, if you can justify the price, I think it's probably the best option at that price range, because like a lot of the guys here, and myself included, have done a ton of upgrades and stuff. Let's walk over here. Let's take a walk. Hello? Do we have microphone? But yeah, oh, my mic's gonna fall. Hold on. Sorry, guys. I'm sorry. Like I said, things are ridiculous around here. But no, here we have like... My mic is still falling. Damn it. Let's get this sorted out. Alright, so here we have... here's my MK2. And like you can see, like I've done some upgrades. I have like the cable chains and a couple other things. And I know it's kind of hard to see, but I have printed bearing holders under here, and we've switched to the IGUS bushings. And like we've got IGUS bushings in the X-axis and stuff. But you really don't have to do any of that stuff, honestly. I think this is a fantastic printer as is. And like I got the kit, which like myself and most other guys would recommend if you're kind of competent at assembling stuff. It's probably best to get the kit, because you're going to understand your printer well, and you're going to know it inside and out, and it's going to help you a lot. Like if you ever do have any problems or need to do like routine maintenance, it helps a lot to have that kind of like inner understanding of what's going on with your machine and stuff. So yeah, I think it's a really great machine. I would definitely recommend it if you can justify the price. That's the only thing. If you're like on a budget and you're one of those guys that's going to go post in the groups about like, you know, what printer can I get for $300, this probably isn't for you. But if you can justify like saving up a little bit and getting it, I would highly recommend it. Yeah, thanks for stopping in, Dawn. Hopefully I didn't give you motion sickness before we left here, but thanks for hanging out with us a little bit. All right, let me shift back over. My mic's gonna fall down. All right, I think we all survived. I also did you guys notice that I clipped I clicked the damn thing off the other webcam surround. I wish I would have realized I could have did that. But yeah, if money's not an issue, it's hard to beat the MK2. honestly. There are some cheaper printers, especially if you're going to get an i3, like the that specific type of printer. If you're not looking to like fiddle for a potentially significant amount of time, yeah, the MK2 is hard to beat. Like Juan said, there's a lot of really good. There's a lot of really decent. Oh, my mic was picking up great. Yeah, I have 3 of these mics, and the one's still set up over there, but it wasn't plugged in and stuff, and the mount was slipping off the desk. It was like falling. But there's a lot of great printers on the market. Just some of them require a little more tweaking and upgrading to kind of get to where you want to be. And the MK2, I don't really have any prints sitting around. I do have this Castle. But this was one of the test prints that I printed initially, like with absolutely 100%. I broke it the other day. But this thing is fantastic. I mean, the quality of this print, there's a little bit of stringing and stuff. But as far as like the detail and just the quality of the print itself, this is better than some people. Like, this is a better quality print than some people get after weeks of tweaking with their machine. And that was like immediately after me assembling the kit. That was with no upgrades, no tweaking. That was with my axes being skewed and it being like compensated like by the software and everything. Yeah, it's really hard to beat. Like some of the early reviews have said, this printer prints like some printers that cost, well over $1,000. Prints as well as, some of the $2,000 and $2,500 printers. The Macchies, that was your first print too. Yeah, in addition to like getting to know your machine, because you have to assemble literally everything. And like I did videos, and like they're the first videos I ever did. I just decided, I was like, shit, I want to be putting this together. I'll stream it and see like how people react. And now I'm not quite doing YouTube full time, but it's slowly getting there. It's getting to the point where I'm spending like 3 to 5 days a week working on stuff for YouTube. But I think assembly took me about 12 hours over the course of 2 or 3 days. And that was like with me talking to people and stuff, because I was on stream. I've seen some guys do it, I think, in as little as like 6 or 7 hours. And it's not a tough process, really. The installation of most of the parts isn't that bad. One of the most frustrating parts is that the frame is made out of threaded rods, and you have to kind of set the dimensions with nuts and stuff. But if you look around, there's a couple like sheets that have all the important dimensions on it that I didn't have when I built mine. And it makes it a lot easier. Makes it a lot easier to do. But yeah, it makes it like there really isn't a lot of maintenance that you have to do. But after you do the assembly, like you'll be much more aware of the things you need to watch out for, like making sure your belts are tensioned properly. There's just a few little things, like making sure some of the nuts in specific areas are tightened and they don't come loose, and regular stuff. Too bad there's a 7-week waiting period. Yeah, I think from what I understand, they are still slammed with orders. Warboy said his took a week to put together because he wasn't allowed to do anything unless his 3-year-old nephew was there to help. But no, the assembly isn't bad. And it's one of those things, like if you're going to buy a kit, they're all about the same to assemble. Mine actually didn't ship with the assembly manual. I never raised a stink about it or anything, because the online instructions they have like an online resource on their website that's actually better, because it has a bunch of like high-res images showing you every step. But if you do get one, I know it'd be down the road. Even if you'd order it today, it's going to be a little while till you get it. But when you do your assembly, make sure you go online and use the online manual. It has a lot more images, and you can blow the images up so you can see exactly what they're talking about. It really did make a difference. But yeah, the MK2s, they essentially sell themselves. Like, as soon as somebody has one, like, obviously you're going to see some people with anything that kind of requires like, you have to be slightly technically minded. This is still like, we're in like a more consumer friendly area with 3D printers, but it's still kind of like the Wild West, where you kind of have to be a little bit of a technical person that feels comfortable like assembling and maintaining things. But you will run into some people that had issues. Some of it was genuine problems with the machine, and a lot of it is user error. A 3D printer is one of those things that you have so much freedom with the settings and calibration and stuff that it's easy to get things wrong if you don't go about it the right way. But that is true of any printer in the market, with a few exceptions. Yeah, and there's comments on the online manuals too, which help. There was only, I never really did a video about it, but there was only like one to three things I would really caution people about during assembly. All are really minor, but just about like not over tightening certain bolts and stuff, because you can kind of crack some of the pieces if you go crazy with them. But yeah, if you like assembly, I mean, that kind of holds true with any printer. If you have an option to buy a kit, I would go with the kit. It saves you a little bit of money. My kit was $770 delivered to the States, because it was like $6.99 and then $70 shipping. Because I forget what the prices are. I think they're $6.99 for the kit and like $8.99 for an assembled machine. And I also think shipping's a little bit more on the assembled machines, obviously because it's a bigger box and stuff. But saves you some money, and yeah, sets you up a little more for success in the long run than I think the pre-assembleds do. Plus, like, I had initially assumed that the pre-assembled machines would come like finely tuned with the chassis all perpendicular and stuff, but that doesn't appear to be the case. So you might actually get like a better calibration if you're picky. You might actually assemble it slightly better than Prusa seems to do in some cases. Yeah, like Gussner said, there's a couple steps you want to be mindful of, but overall the kit's pretty easy to assemble. But no, I would, like, I love the MK2. That's why I'm kind of torn. Like, I'd like to get a second one, but at the same time, it's mainly just that I want another printer. That's why I would love. Japman was talking about that, how like some of the bigger YouTubers, like, most people would think it's sweet when people send you a review unit and then you get to keep it. But like he's already to the point where he doesn't have enough space for the printer, so he prefers it to be shipped with like a return label, so they can send it back. But I'm still a noob, so I'm still like hoping we hit the day where somebody wants to send me a machine for a review and I get to keep it, because I just like to have more printers so I can print more stuff. Yeah, so if anybody's out there and wants to send me a printer, I'm totally open to it. I'm sure in a few more years, like, I'll reach the point where I don't have any space, but I am not there yet. Yeah, we have like 230 subs. That's crazy. I think I checked the other day. I started the channel like a little over 3 months ago. That's insane. Yeah, I know somebody linked it. Let me see if I can post a link here, because it is worth joining, even if you're just looking to buy. No, I don't think I've ever gotten in the Slack group with this computer. I don't have a link to it. Yeah. It because one of the things is the nice thing about the firmware in the MK2 is that even if your X and Y axis aren't perfectly perpendicular, the machine's capable of compensating for it in software. But like one of the goals, once you have the machine, it's like joining kind of like the Mile High Club of the Prusa MK2 group, is to get to do the calibration and for it to tell you that your axes are actually perpendicular. And I did that, and it took me a little while. It was a little frustrating. I'm not like the most methodical person in the world, so your mileage might vary. I know a lot of guys did it fairly effortlessly, but yeah, I had a little little problem, or several little problems. Yeah, Gusner, I have. It's like this. This is a short stream, and we're already like an hour and a half in. That's how it goes. Once I start talking, I never shut up. And it's funny, like today, we're not even doing anything, and I can still like talk endlessly. Let me see. Let me access that address and so I can link it in its entirety. Because it's not letting me sign in, but I can still link the... Hopefully this is correct. I think this is correct. There Aaron is with it. There it is. Oh, that's right, ATOG. I forgot about that. During that stream, I had to go pick up my daughter. And when I got back, it was like really bad. It was worse than when we started, if I remember correctly. Because we made all the changes, and then you have to do like the complete recalibration where it detects everything. And then when I got back, it was actually worse than when we had started. And then I messed with it. I think because I didn't want to go to bed. Like my wife was kind of pissed off at me that I streamed all day, and then was like streaming even after she was home and my daughter was home and stuff. But if you've ever been in a situation like that, like I wouldn't have been able to sleep that night. Like it irritated me so bad. And we did eventually get perpendicular that night. But I know that was a long one. I know some of the streams aren't that bad if you're there and you're going along and just like hanging out. But I know some of them are a little tough for people to watch like after the fact because they're just so damn long. But some of that, I don't know. I have mixed feelings about it. Like I still get people that complain about like how long some of my streams are. I actually get people on a regular basis that complain. But I don't know. I'm just like, I'm still torn. Like I know a lot of people say I should be on Twitch, but I don't know. To me, that's kind of like inane criticism. Streams are streams. If you make it for a stream, cool. If you don't want to watch it because it's too long afterwards, cool. It's like this stream. I don't think there's any like pertinent information that's going to change anybody's life if they don't see it. So if you can't watch the whole thing, that's fine. Exactly, Juan. Different strokes, different folks. My wife and I got perpendicular. Does that even work? I guess you could. I guess that, yeah. I guess you could make that work. Yeah, definitely horizontal. We've definitely been horizontal before. I guess we've been perpendicular a few times. You gotta mix it up. We've been together for like 10 years. You gotta keep it exciting. That's funny. I didn't even think of that. It's been a while since we had a That's What She Said in chat. I've actually not had one of those moments in a little while. But has anyone given any thought? I did get a few comments, but nothing that seemed like an aha moment. Does anybody have any ideas for like an ongoing project that would be cool for the channel? I know in Jatman's chat there was a guy that's apparently printing a canoe. Like I don't have that kind of determination. Uh, he didn't. I was just like following along loosely, but it appeared that he was printing a canoe entirely in ABS, like in a bunch of small pieces. That is insane. I mean, it's cool if he completes it, but holy crap, that's you have to have some determination to print a canoe in like 4 million pieces. Like, yeah, I hope he prints the paddle too. Just the paddle would take you a while. Crap, that would probably take you like just trying to guess. I would say that's probably like 100 to 150 hours to print an actual life size canoe paddle. That's crazy. Try printing it in PVA. It's for display only. If you're going to print a canoe, I would hope it at least is usable. Stream some gaming sessions. It would be cool to. Like, I don't think all... I don't know. Like, maybe that'd be something for, like, a separate channel for those who were interested. But it would be one of the things... It's one of the appeals of having, like, this set to me, is that we could do stuff like that. I know in a previous stream we had been discussing like doing some online role playing, because it'd be kind of cool because I can set the camera up so like you almost have like a first person perspective in like some of the dungeon setups and stuff, which would be kind of cool. Print in vase mode. That would definitely be for display only then. A vase mode canoe is not going to hold anything. But like one of the initial big projects I wanted to do was I wanted to print like one of these guys that was, you know, maybe 16 or 18 inches tall. I just think it would be, it'd be nifty to have like an ongoing project. Could make like slow progress on, get some prints, some of the pieces printed out in between like getting other stuff done. I'm excited. I've talked about it briefly. Juan. I'm still basically building the system. Like, some of you are probably familiar with like D&D, like the actual rules system. I've been trying to like work out a system that works well with, the Elder Scrolls. Like that's what these maps are. That's actually like Tamriel, Iliac Bay, and Vardenfell from like Skyrim. It's not from Skyrim, but you know what I mean? That same game series. Because I want the RPG to take place in that universe, and I've slowly been tracking like minis down that fit. I didn't do a whole lot this week, but I've still been printing out dungeon tiles and stuff. And it'd be cool to do, like I said, like all the sessions probably wouldn't make sense to stream because some role-playing sessions they're fun for the people involved, but they're kind of boring for like an observer. But it would be cool to do like ones that are kind of suited to the stream where there's going to be a lot of stuff happening, a lot of action, like using all the 3D stuff. But I don't think most people have much interest in seeing our adventurers buying equipment in a town for like an hour and a half, like some sessions end up going. Warboy's been slowly printing out your mechs. Yeah, like I'm kind of torn. There's a couple companies that actually have the MechWarrior Online mechs like broken down into pieces that look like they'd be great for printing. But they charge for them, which is illegal. I mean, there's some things where you can have a debate about the legality of the things, but that's illegal. You can't take game assets, break them down for printing, and then sell them. Because I would love to buy them because, like some of the mechs, they have like already broken into pieces for printing, which is nice. It's incredibly convenient. And they even have like the kits that have all the weapon loadouts, so you can print like the weapon pieces that you want to make it exactly like you want it. But yeah, $30. If it was legal, I could probably justify it, but yeah, rewarding people for doing something that they shouldn't really be doing is not something I like to do. But yeah, you can extract them. I've messed with extracting, like, if anybody wants to do that, Angus over at Maker's Muse has like pretty decent tutorials for extracting 3D files, so you can print them yourself. But the thing is, like, once you have them, these guys have went and like basically sliced the model up, like sliced the arms off and the legs into several pieces so they're nice and clean for printing, which is a little bit tougher to do. You can print a T80. I have a patent sitting back here. Like, I didn't print this, but I'm a little bit of a tank nerd, and I'm pretty sure that's a patent. Looks like a patent with like the 105 on it. I don't know. I've had that forever. I forget what it is exactly. Oh, Carl, you're printing the candy machine. Joseph in the Slack group, who's been like a viewer for a long time, he printed one of those, and it was pretty sweet. But no, I'm still kind of like searching for that cool project. Like it'd be cool to do something, especially since I have an airbrush. Like, I'm so pumped about that. It's supposed to come tomorrow. I got like a little compressor and an airbrush and stuff, and I actually got it for like wargaming. I play War Machine, and I want to print some or paint some models up and really try to make them like pro level painted. Yeah, Chris, this is like the secondary set. The bench is right over there still. But yeah, I've wanted to do this for a little bit. We haven't really made any forward progress on the channel and stuff in like a few weeks, and it was time to do some changes. And this isn't done yet. It just I wanted to stream Tuesday and I didn't because I wasn't ready, and then I wanted to stream yesterday and I didn't because I wasn't ready. Still not really ready, but I figured it was worth like letting everybody know I'm still alive. I don't want to go 2 weeks or a week and a half without throwing anything on the channel. I'm trying to keep things growing. Because I'd like to, I don't know, I enjoyed on YouTube and stuff, so if I can do it essentially full-time and make, you know, not like a ton of money, but make as much as I have been making on eBay, I'd rather do YouTube than eBay. eBay sucks. Oh, that's a really good idea, Carl. We've talked about that before. I've had people ask like how you can make money with your 3D printer. Because I've said I'm always upfront about the price. My printer was $770 delivered for the kit, and my printer at this point has paid for itself. I think it was like a week into January. I think it was about then that I had officially, even including like the cost of filament and stuff for printing the stuff, I had officially paid for my MK2. Between the little bit of money I make on YouTube and printing stuff for people. I actually have like tokens. If you saw in previous videos, I printed little tokens out, which those are sweet. Oh God, I've been using those. If any of you had seen the, I think we did orange PLA for that video, like putting magnets in prints. I'll grab those. They're so sweet. But this is my bag of dice and stuff for the game I play. But if you saw that video of like embedding magnets into prints, I went back and did some with the polishable stainless steel, and these also have magnets in them. And I use these like 2 or 3 times a week now. These are like little marker tokens. They're just like a little gear shape that's flat on both sides, and they're the polishable stainless steel, so they're polished up. And they have the little rare earth magnets inside. They're the super tiny ones. But yeah, these are so great. And I use like the rusted ones too for marking different stuff. And I use these like all the time. Like, I know people have done like those videos on like their most practical prints and stuff. And this stupid little thing, these stupid little tokens that are magnetized, I use these for gaming, I don't know, like I said, 2 to 3 times a week. And they're great. I freaking love them. Same with these, the rustable iron. Like, these look good, the rustable iron, but I want to do some painting on these. I got some some acrylic washes and stuff that are good for kind of like simulating oxidation and stuff, like some really aggressive oranges and kind of like teal colors. So I'd like to revisit those at some point and make them look even cooler. But yeah, it's if you get yourself out there and advertise that you have one of these, you can do little prints for people and make decent money and pay for your machine in fairly short order. But yeah, that's a good idea. Most people, like, to a lot of us that have kind of been immersed in the 3D printing world for a little while, like, it's the novelty of it wears off a little bit, but to most people, this is still like really new cutting edge stuff. Like if you show them even a stupid little print like this and say like, no, I made this. I made this in my basement. It blows people's minds. Like it's still, when new guys come into the shop and they like see my tokens that I'm using and they ask like, where the hell did you get those? Those are pretty cool. I'd be like, I made them. They're like, yeah, how'd you make them? And then you start like explaining to them, like, I have a 3D printer. This is like basically how it works. And like, there's some bigger ones. I have some of the older ones I made that aren't magnetized, but we designed them in Tinkercad and they kind of nest together. So they kind of clip together. It's not hard to like get people psyched about stuff and sell stuff. Chris said he's had his 3D hubs open for like 3 weeks. I haven't sold anything on my 3D hubs. Like everything I've made for people has been people that I interact with in person, and I can show them like some of the smaller trivial things I make, and then they ask about stuff and just end up doing stuff for them. Even guys you run into that just like, there's a cool thing on Thingiverse. Like I know there's a lot of debate online like about the ethics of it and stuff, but it's pretty unambiguous. Like if you're not selling the files, like if someone just comes to you and they have like a file they want you to print, you're just selling them your machine time and the material costs and stuff. Like I don't think there's no ambiguity there. That's okay to do. That's exactly what most of the commercial printing services do. You can send them files from Thingiverse and they'll print them for you because you're paying for the machine time and the materials. You're not paying for the file. But that's how I've like generated revenue with my machine. I was like most guys, I set up a 3D hubs like thinking, because I'm like one of the only in this area where I live. And my prices are still kind of high because I almost don't want any orders from 3D hubs, kind of. I have like enough stuff to print as it is. But yeah, I've gotten like no activity off of it. I think you need to lower your prices quite a bit from the defaults. The defaults are kind of high. If I remember correctly, I think like the little Marvin print is like, I think they end up charging people like $12 or $15 for that with the default pricing. So yeah, that's also like imagination is absolutely correct. If there are like, I've tipped I don't know, I think I've tipped like 3 or 5 people, and it was like trivial amounts. It was like $1 or 2 or 3. But if there are people on Thingiverse that make stuff you like and you want to show your appreciation, money works. Money, people like the money. So yeah, throw people a bone if you're using their prints and stuff. I would definitely recommend that. Gusner, do you go for the stock bearings? No, we did discuss that earlier. I think Tuesday on stream, which hopefully everything will be normal. Hopefully I'll have everything sorted out how I want it down here. I think Tuesday on stream, we're going to switch back to the default linear bearings, and I'm just going to run them for a while and compare them to the experience I've had with the IGUS bushing, since I have several hundred hours on them. So, no, I know that like me saying that like alarms some people, like, oh no, you're getting rid of the IGUS, but like I said, I just want to like round out my experiences with both and try to do like come to a final consensus like how I feel about them overall, and then I'd like to do a video that kind of like revisits the IGUS bushings and stuff. now that I have like tons of print time on them. I can tell you now already, like I'm fine with them in the x-axis. I just, as time passes, I have like more and more mixed feelings about them in the y-axis bed. I'm anxious to see what the noise is like too now, honestly. I don't have the lubrication yet, but I'm gonna get some like decent quality lube for them and make sure they're lubricated properly and cleaned and everything, and actually see how bad the noise is, because I think some of the people that have, like, I was one of them that has like the excessive noise. I think a lot of that's probably that they're not lubricated as well as they probably should be, because being that they're like a mechanical metal to metal contact, they do need to be lubricated on a fairly regular basis, so they're functioning properly. But Juan, I actually don't know. It's one of the things I'll try to get to the bottom of that by Tuesday, and probably have like a couple types of lube that you can use, because I'm sure there's, like most lubrications, there's like, I don't know, a lot of options. KY. Yeah. KY is not bad. Lube is good in all situations. Hey, ATOG, it's been a while. It's about time. Yeah, lots the short, quick movements. This is one of the loudest prints. I know you can't. You might be able to see it. I don't know. It has like kind of that internal small grid pattern on the infill. Holy shit, was this thing loud printing? Because it's just like. But yeah, it's a lot of things, like when it was doing like the perimeters on the big like round parts, it actually wasn't very loud at all. But then it does those quick jerky motions. It was not quiet. Yeah, like that. I'll probably pick up some PTFE oil. That probably wouldn't be a bad way to go, because that's one of those things, like Warboy mentioned. It's one of those things that, like, the more you use it, the better it works, because it starts to actually like impregnate the surfaces, the wear surfaces, with a little bit of Teflon. Maki said the Y is much louder than the X. Absolutely. Absolutely. The Y was 90% of the noise, I'd say. Which makes sense. The X-axis doesn't really have anything that's going to resonate. And then the Y-axis, you have this big plate that acts like a drum skin almost. So it's not surprising to me that it does make quite a bit more noise. But if you do have a lot of noise, one of the easiest ways to reduce the noise that your printer makes is to slow the print speed down. If you'd compare the noise that it makes at like 40 millimeters a second compared to like 55 or 60, it's like an order of magnitude higher, I would say. So like if you do have to print at night and you can tolerate waiting longer for your prints, like if you drop it really slow, the printer doesn't really make much noise. It's like, yeah. I know, Imaginary. I'm looking forward to the future when we have printers that'll print at like 250 millimeters a second and still be like super accurate and quiet, where you can print something like this out in like 15 minutes instead of like, I forget, this one was like comical. I think that was like a 24-hour print or something. But no, I had the same problem when I first got the printer, and like I was trying to run it at night, and we're in the basement. I think the printer was sitting almost exactly right here, and then our bed is upstairs, probably about 25 feet over there. You could hear it like it was sitting next to you. Like it was really bad. And our floor is not insulated as well as it could be, which is part of it, but it was definitely an issue. I remember I had a fold-up table that I sat around it and then put like stuff on the other side, and then took another fold up table and laid it on top and made like a fold up table tent, which helped a little bit. And then I laid like blankets over top of it so I could print at night. It was ridiculous. I should have took pictures of that stuff because it'd be funny to some of you guys, I'm sure. But no, I'm just like I said, I'm interested to see how I feel about the default bearing setup now that I've had so much time with the IGUS. And I'm also interested to see like what the noise level is with them like lubricated well. Because it is nice that the IGUS are like essentially zero maintenance, but with a little if it is the case that with a little TLC you can, you know, get reasonable noise and stuff, reasonable noise levels, you know, it's, I don't know, it's maybe not so bad. Because I think a lot of people are just like assembling their kits, and the bearings have a little bit of like residual oil because they're shipped in like a tiny little bit of oil. And if you're like me, I should have lubricated them and I didn't because I was kind of a noob, and without lube being kind of like filling, like, because I think of like my family owns like my dad owns a go-kart track where bearings are very relevant because the go-karts use them, and like the rest of my family runs like a lumber mill, and anytime we install bearings on anything there, like we literally pack them full of grease when they're initially installed, and then after they're installed and you're like using them, like you grease them heavily. So yeah, they definitely function better. Not even better, they just like function normally when they're lubricated properly. And I didn't really lubricate mine worth a damn, so I'm sure that had a lot to do with the noise, because those balls are just like rattling around in there, and they have like a lot more ability to vibrate than they would if there was like grease packed in there. I have seen that Gustner said about taking a stone paver with rubber feet, because like one of the problems I also had was mine was sitting on a wooden table, which worked as like a resonator, because all that vibration the machine was making was just getting amplified by that wooden surface. Imagination functions better when he's lubricated too. Or her. It could be a her. I don't know. Shouldn't make assumptions. The Maki's, he mentioned printing the vibration feet. I printed those out, and I was really happy with the feet at first too, but then I was discussing it, and it really does introduce a little bit of an issue, because it allows your machine to rock, like especially with the x-axis, because it's this tight little unit of weight that's moving around rather quickly, and those feet allow the machine to rock, and it will introduce like slight inconsistencies into your prints. So I actually stopped using them after a while, because they were one of the like things I would recommend to people when they first got their printer, and I actually don't recommend that people use them now. I'm kind of with Aaron on those, the anti-vibration feet. I think if you have something a little more rigid, like some of the rubber pads and special rubber compounds that people use to deaden the vibration, I think those are a little bit better. But the actual like springy, like it's kind of like a squish circle kind of like shape. I actually have a bunch of them up here. I don't really recommend those anymore. These little guys, like I said, I think I have like 3 sets of these, but you print them out in 2 pieces. How do they go like that? You print them out in 2 pieces, and then they go together, and you rotate one inside the other, and it locks in place. And in PLA, like people recommend you don't print them in PLA, but even in PLA, like they're flexible, and they do reduce the vibration that gets transferred to the surface the printer's sitting on. But Like I said, they really do. Like if you have a print that's going and you watch them, yeah, they do let your machine rock quite a bit more than it would otherwise. I don't know if I remember. Are these the same feet you had before, Aaron? Oh, okay. Yeah, see those? Like if you follow the link Aaron put in, they accomplish the same thing essentially, but they don't allow the machine to rock nearly as much, which is where the problem is. Because even the felt feet, even those little felt feet that they put on, do allow the machine to rock a little bit because it's not solid. Yeah, exactly. Like Aaron said, like a using something that has like a lot of mass and then putting dampers on that mass itself and then allowing the printer to set on something stable helps. That's what I forget who said it was saying about like buying like a stone paver and then putting like something to deaden the vibration under the paver. Accomplishes like the same thing. I know there was some when I first got my printer because I was trying to like fix the sound issues. Uh, there's like some somewhat expensive like rubber special dampener things that you can buy, but they were kind of expensive. I never ended up getting them. I couldn't justify the cost. They kind of shocked me when I looked them up on Amazon and saw how much they were. But it's some like special. It's not like rubber. It's like some rubberized material that comes in little patches that you can use to deaden vibration and things. And they apparently work extremely well, but they were kind of expensive. Sorbethane, I think that is it. Yeah, that stuff was a little pricey. Let me see if I can find it here. That's right, the isolate it. But they're the first thing. Like this probably isn't the only option. I wish I could share my screen, but like here are 1 inch diameter little circles that you could buy, and they're $15 for 8 of them. Which isn't, I know that's not insane, but that's not cheap either. But they do work well. I mean, if you're desperate, like your level of desperation is going to adjust how much you can justify spending. But I just couldn't justify. I couldn't justify the cost. With squash balls. But no, there's a lot of options. Some of it you'll have to experiment with. Like I think a lot of these, I don't know if anybody's done a video on like the sorbethane things. I guess if I put the default bearings back in, I'd be in a position to test some of that stuff to see how much it affects the noise levels. I don't have a decibel meter though, which you really should do instead of just trying to like, I don't know, be subjective and say that this sounds more quieter. Actually get like a decibel reading to see how effective different things are. I know these things worked fairly well. Like if you were standing right next to the machine, it didn't seem like it made a big difference. But then, like I said, when you'd go upstairs, it dramatically reduced the amount of vibration that was transmitted, like that low frequency stuff that really travels through walls. Get an Android app. Like I know they have the apps for smartphones, but I'm curious how like accurate they actually are. It'd be interesting to see like one of the smartphone apps compared to like an actual decibel meter. Oh, that's true. That's true. I do have like relatively decent mics. I could use that. That's actually not a bad idea. Because I would assume decibel meters basically use the same kind of element that a microphone uses. Butthurt. I love how as the stream goes on, more shit gets on your desk. Yeah, that tends to happen. That's why it's nice to have all this space. See, over there, the new setup, I don't have any space. I have room for even more stuff over here. I could bring all kinds of stuff. We could talk about the contents of my Star Siege box. Oh, that's not opened. I can't open it. I do want to open it though, damn it. It's the worst thing about having stuff that's sealed. Is like the first thing you want to do is open it. Because that, like, Star Siege has this big full color manual in it that's, I don't know, 250 pages thick. And I want to look at it. That's true, Mockies. If it's only comparative, you don't really need to be accurate, but yeah. Did I get some flexible filaments? We actually did get some. I forget what kind it was. Yeah, I did get a flex material last month, and I didn't even print with it. I didn't get a chance. Yeah, I'm like backed up with the MakerBox filaments. If you saw in the, I don't know when I did it recently on a stream, we looked in the MakerBox for this month, and there's actually like cool stuff in there, because there's the conductive, what is that? The conductive graphite, I think it is. It's like a graphite-based filament that's supposed to conduct electricity. Not very well, I don't think, but it does conduct. We have that to test, and then there was that sculptable filament that you can apparently sculpt or print and then like warm it up in water, and then you can sculpt it a little bit. That seemed kind of cool. But no, the MakerBox has been great the last 2 months. Like I complained before, they've been creeping the price up slowly. Like every single box, they've had some alert that like it's been like a minuscule amount, but I think the first one I got was $15, and I think it's up to like over 17 now, which is, I don't know, I think that's still fair, considering it gives you access to some like some stuff that's kind of expensive if you buy a full roll. Like I would not. I wonder how much that graphite filament is a roll. I wonder if I can find that here. Because I think it's still a PLA. But I would imagine that it's not cheap. Again, I wish I could share my screen, because I'm on Protopasta. I think it's from Protopasta. So the sample is $6, so I imagine it's like some of their other like metallic composites. And they don't sell a 1 kilogram roll. This laptop sucks. It doesn't look like the price is updating. Oh my God, yeah. The a 2 kilogram roll of the conductive graphite is $200. So like that, I think you only get, if I remember correctly, I think it's 20 grams. I could be wrong. You want to double check that before you make a decision about it. But for 20 grams of that, I think it's like damn near the cost of the box. So yeah, some months it's really good. And then like I think there was 1 or 2 months where you just basically got some like variations of like PLA, which were still cool to mess with, but it wasn't anything that really got my motor running. But this month's was really cool. Who's the latest recipient of an MK2 and when did the order? Someone earlier said there was 7 weeks, which kind of surprises me that they haven't caught up with demand. I'll pull the site up here and see if they actually say. Because I know the weight was down for a little while there. Because it had peaked at like 6 or 7 weeks, and then I think was down to like 4 or 5. But then someone earlier said it was at 7 weeks again. Yeah, their site says 7 weeks. Wow, and that's for the kit. Let's check the pre-assembled machines. I'm sure that's even worse. Yeah, Prusa's site says 7 weeks for the kit. That's crazy. Oh my God. It's 8 to 9 weeks for a pre-assembled. Yeah, wow. That crept back up there. Like I said, I know it had went down for a little while, but wow. 8 to 9 weeks. That's a while. That's what, like over 2 months, or about 2 months on average. Maybe they're observing the Chinese New Year. I know people that laugh about that. That is a serious problem because there's a lot of stuff that gets manufactured in China, and during their New Year period, they don't make stuff for the most part. So ATOG, you got lucky then. Oh, Gusner, even the upgrade kits, 5 to 6 weeks. Wow. Because, well, that does come with all the printed parts, actually. So, yeah, that does make sense. Like David said, I know initially they had planned on having basically all of the multi-material upgrades shipped by this point, but I know they had run into some problems with the beta testing. I wish I had got on board with YouTube and 3D printing a little earlier, because I probably would have been like a shoe-in for the beta test, since my channel is like kind of dedicated to the MK2 for the most part. But I was just a little late. I think I started in November. But I'm kind of not surprised that they had some issues with the multi-material upgrade. That's not an easy thing to get filament to change reliably. Like, I know it seems like a fairly simple thing, but that's why I'm curious to do some testing. I've been in contact with them a little bit. They're going to try to get me one right after release. They're gonna prioritize my order so I can do a review and stuff. But $200 worth of gears. That's unfortunate. They had problems. It's especially unfortunate if their production costs did go up a lot because people had already paid, so you can't really like come back and say, hey, we need a little bit more money from you guys. Did I see Joseph last tweet? No, I actually don't follow him. I guess I should follow him, but I actually don't keep up with things. I always get things like through the grapevine, like people tell me about it. But yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I'm so pumped to do like some PVA supports. I'm like prints like this. I think as soon as when I get the multi-material upgrade and make sure it's working okay, I'm going to be ripping files from games and printing my brains out. Because there's so many things like this. Like this print we've discussed before, it's kind of ugly. I know you guys can't really see, but the back of it looks terrible because it was printed on its back and there was tons of support material and it just didn't come off all that clean. But I'm pretty pumped to print some stuff with PVA support so you can like dissolve it away. Yeah, David, I agree wholeheartedly. It's good on them for not raising the prices for people who already paid. But I wouldn't at all be surprised if it's more expensive in the future. It's already kind of surprising that the price is as low as it is. Gusner said, hopefully PVA gets cheaper. I actually don't know how much PVA filament is. I've never actually looked at it. It's never been relevant to me, since it's not really practical to use with a single extruder. But no, I'm always like excited to try anything out that's new. So it'll be exciting to mess with. I don't really have much that I need to print in multiple colors. I'm sure a lot of you are in kind of the same boat where it'll be fun to mess with, but it's kind of like a novelty. Especially considering, so say you're doing a 4-color print, it's going to take at least 4 times as long. Oh my goodness. It's I forget what the Australian conversion is. $60 for 500 grams. Klaus, I only have a handful of actual like recorded tutorials, but one of them is how to change nozzles. If you look in my videos, I did a very concise video on how to change them. And I think I covered it all in the video, but the big thing is you want to make that big aluminum block that it threads into. You just want to make sure you have a firm grip on that so it doesn't rotate. You don't want to damage your heat break. But yeah, I actually do have a video on that. I've never been asked if I had something and actually had it. So thanks for that. I wouldn't be surprised if they're short on MK42 beds, because I know like guys that are doing. I know there's a handful of other i3 machines that people are buying those beds to put on because they are nice beds for the most part. You got the nozzle kit with the spanner. Well, do you mean you got the like the 6 nozzle pack? Like, because I got the same one from, I can't think of the company. I think it's right from, I think E3D actually makes it. But the big thing is, because it's kind of like on the MK2, the wires from the thermistor actually bend back around the heat block, and it's kind of awkward to grab a hold of. But just make sure you have a hold of that whole aluminum block when you're tightening and loosening the brass part of the nozzle out, because you don't want the block to rotate if you can prevent it. Because if you're like me, I actually thought I broke mine because I rotated a little bit, and then even when I tightened the nozzle completely up into the aluminum block, my whole thing was wobbling, and actually I had to disassemble my whole Z-axis assembly or X-axis assembly and go up there and actually like screw the heat block back into the heatsink a little bit, and it fixed it luckily, but it definitely freaked me out. But no, I like the MK42 heat bed. I miss, like, I do dislike that so many of them aren't perfectly flat. Like mine's not perfectly flat, and it doesn't lead to problems for the most part. But like if I print my first layer really thin, like if I'm printing it like 100 microns, for instance, it's good practice anyway, but I have to do my first layer at least 200%, like at least 200 microns, because otherwise the little bit of a hump in the middle becomes a problem. Juan, am I strictly Prusa? For the time being, like I said, I'd just like to have a second printer of almost any kind, really. But I just happen to have the paint. So, yeah. Kind of and kind of not. Like for the time being, like I only do like MK2 content because it's the only printer I have, but no, as we grow and as I get more stuff, no, I don't think that'll be the case. I'll still recommend the MK2 to people because I do think it is a great printer, but Ralph, you asked about insulating under the bed. I actually have all the cork and stuff on hand from doing like old school hobby stuff. Like if you've ever seen the the plaster casted dungeon tiles and stuff I did before, they all had cork on the bottom. It's actually, if you ever make something that you can justify it, like even stuff like this, if you put like cork on the bottom, it makes stuff so much like classier. In my opinion, if you do like a nice job, it makes it really nice. Like when people lift it up and it's like a manufactured product with a nice soft bottom and stuff, makes it nice. But I have the cork on hand, so I kind of am tentatively planning on insulating the bottom of our build plate when we do the bearing switch Tuesday, because I actually have to take the the heat, the build plate off to get to the bearing holders, unfortunately. But yeah, like Aaron said, you can just basically sandwich it between the aluminum X frame under your heat bed and the heat bed itself. And like, I haven't discussed it recently, but my basement's always cold. I think it's like 62 degrees down here right now. And before, when I was printing, I think it was the Monumental marble filament that needed the heat bed to be at like 100 C. And I actually had difficulty keeping it that warm in my cold basement, and it helps with some of those situations. "62 Fahrenheit, yeah, not 62 C. Yeah, it's nice now that like I insulated the windows and stuff. It stays consistent, but it is cold. It never gets below 61, and it never gets above 63 Fahrenheit. Yeah, if it was 62 C, that wouldn't be very comfortable. Gustner used a hairdryer while printing ABS. You gotta do what you gotta do, man. When I was printing, again, I should have took pictures because it was kind of hilarious. If you remember me saying I built like the fold-up table tent around my printer, I also did that when I was printing the Monumental, because initially I didn't realize that the bed was cooling down because the part cooling fan was on 100%. So it was taking that 60-degree air. It was probably colder than that at the time because that was before I insulated the windows. It was probably like in the upper 50s, probably 55 to 58 degrees down here was the norm. The part cooling fan was running at 100%, and it was blowing that cold air the whole way back across the build plate and was making it cool off. So I had like big sheets of felt like on this table, and I built that same tent and had felt draped over it and like stuff pushed up against the face, and it was like totally encapsulated. And it was the only way I could keep the build plate at 100 C. But yeah, like Klaus said, not only does that help with doing ABS to a certain extent, well, not to a certain extent, it helps a lot actually, because the closer you can keep your ambient temperature to like the print temp, like obviously you can't keep it at the print temp because it'll just melt everything, but the closer you can keep it, the better your ABS prints will turn out for the most part. And it also goes a long way to sound deadening if that's an issue for you. That's why a lot of people use like the IKEA cabinets, which I think are great. It's not very practical for me because of like doing videos and stuff. I don't really have a good place for it that would work out for everything I need to do. But I'm not going to turn the camera. But now that I have like this wall done and this wall done, and I need to fill some gaps in here because it's actually open to the rest of the basement. But I only have about a 12-foot span to fill, like to build a wall or something there, and my workshop would actually be enclosed, and I could run a little space heater in here, which would help a lot. It'd be nice to get a really small dehumidifier in here, because we run one in the basement that we just want to keep it under like mold levels. But it'd be nice to run a second smaller one in here to keep this side really dry, and I could get it like sealed up. I don't know if you can hear that. My stomach's growling. I'm getting hungry. But no, the enclosures I think are a good thing. It also, like we touched on the potential health hazards of printing earlier, it does, even without ventilation, it will like reduce your exposure because you just won't have as much seepage of those fumes and stuff into your home, which I don't think... again, I haven't done a lot of my own research on it, but I don't think for the most part that like standard PLAs and the bulk of normal filaments are really an issue. I wouldn't be surprised if there's some like exotic filaments that probably have some particulate that's not so great to be breathing, but I don't think PLA is really an issue as far as I know. Again, that would probably be something that would be fantastic to actually like do a video on. because I'm kind of curious. Especially having like my daughter and stuff around. Like I don't want to be exposing anybody to stuff that's, you know, not ideal. But but anyway, guys, unless anybody had any other questions, I guess we'll wrap it up. We're just kind of shooting the breeze today, so it wasn't really anything to accomplish. I know this stream's called Channel Update. We didn't really do any channel updates, but this secondary set's like getting finished. It's not quite done. It's not. There's still kinks to be worked out with like the workflow and stuff. I still think is kind of bad. Cause like my actual like laptop that isn't horrible is over there actually streaming this. Hopefully the audio synced a little better. The audio in that last video was ungodly. I couldn't believe how bad it was. That was terrible. I was surprised there weren't like more dislikes on that video. But no, we're trying to keep things moving along here. I just wish I had more space. I know like everybody probably wishes that. I just wish I had a little bit more space. Oh, Klaus, you run a retro gaming store in Norway. That's pretty sweet, man. I run I guess I technically run like a retro store. I run a shop on eBay, and I've been slacking a lot because I've been trying to push with YouTube because I'd rather do that to make some supplemental income than to do the retro gaming because the market's so like volatile. But like I have a lot of passion for retro gaming. I don't have any like over the years I've sold a lot of the expensive cartridges I've had. I still have a couple like novelty things. Like I have a couple like homemade cartridges, like Luigi's Chronicles. This isn't an actual game, it's like a hacked ROM. Whoops. And there's another one here somewhere. Where is it? Here it is. The Princess Peach hacked ROM is kind of funny. Because this is basically like a hacked version of Mario that has Luigi as the main character instead. And then this Princess Peach game is Mario 2 that only has variations of Peach as the playable characters. And it's actually kind of like an adult game. The language in it's a little rough around the edges. But I actually I don't really have any expensive games anymore. I got rid of all of them. Mainly because I got this. This is the Retro AVS. It's an NES hardware clone that puts out HDMI. You see none of the stuff's hooked up yet. And then I have an EverDrive. This is an actual one. I just didn't buy it with a label. It's so stupid I didn't. But then I have an EverDrive with every game ever on it, so ever since I got that, like I was a little more willing to part with some of my expensive cartridges. Ralph said he had to run a new PID. I would assume, yeah. I would assume if you insulate the bed, because the heaters are going to have to work a lot less to maintain temp. You don't get retro... You don't get it? What? What's wrong with you, imagination? I don't think such heresy has ever been spoken in my chat before. You don't get retro gaming? Get out of here, man. You're crazy. Yeah, I love it. Like the NES library, there's a lot of games I don't like, but there are some that just like the staples, man. Just like, well, this cartridge is dirty. This isn't like my actual cartridge. Just some freaking Mario Brothers. That game has aged so well, in my opinion. A lot of games, like Super Mario 2 is one of my favorite games. No, I didn't mean get out of here, like actually get out of here. I just mean like, you're crazy. Yeah, you're crazy. Man, I love retro gaming. That's why I have like all this DOS stuff, like Daggerfall. This is a game from '96. Love it. Like Mario 3. This is, I think I did show this when I first got it. This is a complete in-box copy of Mario 3, and it's the original print where the Mario Brothers isn't placed properly. Like, it overlaps his hand, and they changed it later, so it doesn't, it's over here on the side properly. Yeah, man, I love retro games. I definitely enjoy, like, I play modern games also, but like, gaming isn't all about graphics, and it's something I'm sure there's a lot of you guys that feel the same way that are in here right now. Like, there's a lot of games that have fantastic graphics that are just bad games. They're not that fun. Like, the actual act of playing the game isn't that enjoyable or rewarding. And there's a lot of games. Star Siege is a good example of that. Earth Siege is a good example. They're games that by today have kind of comical graphics. Same with Daggerfall. It's all like pixelated and low resolution. But as far as like the actual gameplay, they're fantastic. They're just tons of fun. Mario Kart 64, one of my other favorite games. The graphics are not great by today's standards, but the gameplay is fantastic. No, I see, you do get it. If you can say that sentence, good graphics don't make the game, you get retro gaming. You totally get it. You just won't admit it. But yeah, I would assume all of you, even you being 50, there has to be some older games that you love that objectively have bad graphics. Like, my dad loves Pac-Man. That's another game that I like to play. The graphics are bad. I remember we had a Space Invaders cabinet in our basement, and I loved playing that game, and the graphics are about as simple as something could be. But I still think it's I still think it's like a good game. It's fun to play. It's simple. And some of it, like, I know some of it is like nostalgia goggles, and like I get that. There are some games that I think are kind of bad. It's kind of like exactly the opposite of what I was just saying. They're kind of bad for various reasons. Battletoads, I don't have the cartridge anymore. I think that game's kind of bad. It's too hard. But I still love playing it because of nostalgia and stuff. So, I mean, definitely, like, I need to get a shirt that says it, because it's like, I don't know. It's one of my mantras, like, different strokes for different folks, definitely. But I think everybody that lived through any of those periods of, like, early gaming probably has a warm place in their heart for a game or two. Like, one of the first things I ever played was a Commodore 64. Double Dragon 2, do I have one of those? I do. Double Dragon 2, man, good game. Good call, Mockies. That game's a lot of fun. Mike Tyson's Punch-Out's right beside it. That's another fun game. There are a lot of bad games. I'll give you that. Tetris, I think I have like 5 copies of that, because they kind of dipped in value, and I was waiting for them to go back up before I sold them, and I just ended up like sitting on them. Shaq Fu. Some of those games though are so bad they're good. Klaus, like you said, like Superman for the N64. That game's so bad that it's hard to not have fun playing it. So it's like you think it would be like a linear graph, but it's actually like a loop. Like when you get to one end of the spectrum or another, it's like you come back around. Does the original XCOM count as retro yet? When was that? Like early 2000s? Probably. Like one of the like, I like playing Mech Warrior. I like all the Mech Warrior I like all the Mech Warrior games for different reasons. But like one of my favorite to play again and again is 94 is definitely retro. Yeah. For sure. Ghosts and Ghouls. Yeah, I just picked a copy of that up the other day for a couple bucks. Right here. Oh, that's Ghosts and Goblins, actually. Same deal, though. Ghosts and Goblins, yeah, it's kind of hard. It's still fun to play. Road Rage, I remember that game. I had a lot of fun with that. I remember because nobody I know had many games, and the friend I never had Road Rage, but I played it at my friend's house on the Genesis, and he only had 2 games. He had Road Rage and the Beavis and Butthead game, and his mom did not like that we liked that as much as we did. I remember the one day she walked in and we were in the part where you could put the rat in the deep fryer, and she did not realize that the game she bought for her darling little son was that kind of game. And I always thought that was funny. But no, yeah, there's lots of good games. But like, I would definitely agree there are a lot of bad games. Like, I think there's like 760 official games in the NES library, and I would say probably 500 of them are terrible. Maybe less than that, but a significant number of them are kind of just bad. They're not fun to play. Is the original Diablo retro? I would say so, definitely. I used to have box copies of Diablo 1 and 2, but I sold them like a long time ago. I wish I wouldn't have. Another fun game. If you guys have ever seen Mystic Towers, this was during the what I like to consider like the glory days of PC gaming. Because I know it doesn't say it. Yeah, Apogee. This was one of the Apogee games. They made a lot of great games. Some of those are a little pricey to get a hold of now, but Armored Core was awesome. Yeah, I definitely agree. Show me one grandma that conquers Bad Fur Day. I used to have a loose copy of Conquerors, and then I had a complete in-box copy, but again, that was one when money got tight, it was easy to cash that in for some actual cash. So I did part with my Conquerors. I used to repair Conquerors, because it's like I think it varies a little bit, but Conker's Bad Fur Day, if nobody knows, it was one of the only it was like an NC-17 game, I think. It was one of the only 64 games that was rated 17 and older. And I think I still have some of them. People needed them repaired. And if you guys didn't know, Star Wars Shadows of the Empire, which is an okay game. I played this game a lot. But Star Wars Shadows of the Empire has the same board in it as the Conquerors, so I have like 6 or 8 of these that I bought for repairing Conquer games, because they use the same RAM chips and the same board and stuff. If you'd like break the traces in the board, like some people would have, I don't know how they did it, but would break the actual tabs on the boards, and you could just like de-chip these, put the Conquerors chips in, and you're good to go. But thanks to Conquerors, I have like 6 or 8 of them now. But yeah, I agree. Apogee, like I said, to me, like the Apogee, 3D Realms, and like Bethesda Softworks back before, like when they were before like the Dynamix thing, because Star Siege is a Dynamix game. So is Earthsiege. Yeah, that to me was like the glory days of my gaming on the PC as like a younger person. There's so many good games. There's more. I wish I had box copies of more. Like, I picked up Mystic Towers pretty cheap because I was just like watching for it forever. I think I got that for like $6, $5 or $6, which is crazy because it's complete. It's not sealed, but it's complete. But Blake Stone, those series, like the original Duke Nukems, were all good games. Yeah, tons of cool Apogee games. Wacky Wheels. I don't know. It was cool they put a Steam pack out that had all 32 games for a little while that you could buy, because I picked that up. That's how I found Andrew Hulshult, dude who redid like the Doom soundtracks and stuff. He actually did the soundtrack for the Apogee throwback pack. You sold a complete copy for the PC for $120. That's not bad. That's actually good. These are both complete. I think the books and discs are upstairs, but I actually got really good prices on those. I think I got the one for $30. Did you happen to see Klaus It's been a few months ago now, but did you happen to see the one copy of Daggerfall that sold on eBay at the end of last year? Somebody had like an absolutely perfect condition sealed copy of Daggerfall, and it brought $700. That blew my mind because I wanted that really bad. I didn't really have the money to spend, but I think I bid it up to $380. Because sealed copies are almost unheard of that game. Because my wife was pissed. She was so mad when I was bidding on it. She's like, "That's crazy. That's not. There's no way it's worth that." Because I bid it. Because I told her, I was like, at the time I was telling her like I bid 380. I was like, "Dear, I guarantee you if I get this, I can sell it for over $500. Like this is worth so much more than this." And then it ended up bringing like 700 and something, which as games go isn't actually that much. Like we were talking about NES games. There's a ton of NES games that are worth more than $700, but not a ton, but more than a few. But yeah, if you ever see a sealed copy of that somewhere, like I used to go to, I know you guys that aren't in the States probably don't have this. Probably some of you guys that in other areas of the States, but there's a chain called Ollie's that they used to get like big, I don't know how they did it, but it was one of those big box stores, like Big Lots, that would get like lots of damaged goods and then resell them. And they used to get PC stuff all the time. And I remember years ago seeing like, we went in the one time and they had like a flat, like a shipping pallet of the Daggerfall holographic boxes for like $4. And I didn't buy them. I should, like, at the time, I should have bought all of them. I just didn't really know, because that was probably back before 2000, before they were worth a whole lot. But yeah, they probably, games, yeah, it's hard to tell what some games will be worth eventually. Because cartridge games have a longer lifespan than, like, disc games, because CDs actually do go bad over time. Like, games like this, that have this actually has floppy disks in it, like 3.25 inch floppy disks. They actually do go bad. Like there's a good chance if you'd open that up and throw those disks in that they're actually corrupted, because the magnetics, there's just radiation and stuff all the time, and they actually do go bad. 3.5, that's right. You are correct, sir. But yeah, they're 3.5 inch floppies. And they actually do go bad over time. So do CDs. CDs, I think, only have a 10 to 15 year lifespan. So there's a lot of disc games that are bad now, which is kind of sad. It's kind of tragic. But cartridge games last a lot longer, even though the chips, the EEPROMs and stuff can go bad. But yeah, it's hard to tell what some of those will be worth in the future. How do you feel? We'll end on this. We'll discuss this for a little bit. You are totally right, Klaus. The sealed games will never be played. It's one of those things that's like, I don't know. Just knowing kind of makes me sad. Like, even if this Daggerfall was sealed, like, if I still owned it 20 years from now, it'd be kind of sad to me to know the disc was probably corrupt inside. It wouldn't affect the value, but... how do I feel about emulating games? I'm definitely like if you have like a spectrum of guys who like are totally fine with emulation. Well, it would actually be like guys that only use emulation and guys that'll only use hardware. Like I'm in the middle ish, but towards like the hardware side. That's why I wanted to get this thing. Because this is like an actual hardware clone. This is as close to emulation as I'll get, because like this uses ROMs that are on the SD card, but they're actual rips from cartridges. And then like this actually isn't an emulator. This is a hardware clone. So you're actually playing, it's not original Nintendo hardware, but you're actually playing on hardware instead of like software emulation. Like that's, I don't know. I don't have a problem with emulation, obviously, but I would just prefer to play on like the most original, have like the most original experience possible if I can. That's why, like, I have, like, you guys remember from other videos, like, I have a ton of NESs and Genesis and 64s and stuff. I even have, like, 3 Ataris sitting up there that need modded. Like, the ideal to me is to play, that's why I have old tube TVs and stuff. That thing's still ringing. Yeah, if anybody's near me and ever needs a tube television, I have a ton. I think I have, like, 6 down here. This one isn't the biggest, but it has a really nice picture, is the reason I use it. And I also have a 40-inch Sony Trinitron upstairs that's a tube television that weighs 280 freaking pounds, but I can't get it downstairs. Like, obviously, I prefer that same experience I had as a kid because it just feels right. Especially if you're playing like an NES. They are shit on an LCD because there's input lag. It's the reason like light games won't work, is because there's like a couple hundred milliseconds depending on your TV with like the specific model, because it has an analog signal coming in and it needs to be converted to digital to be displayed on the screen. So there's like a couple milliseconds to delay, and it makes some games unplayable. Like I remember trying to play Mario 3 on an LCD and I couldn't play it. Like there's some things you're trying to do that you just like can't do because there's like a little bit of an input delay. But no, emulation's fine. Like I'm not like an elitist. Yeah, I wish we could talk about that. Like part of it's like Klaus said is the display method. CRTs are actually, if anybody ever has any free time, like Google how CRT monitors actually display their cathode ray tube. Google how they actually display the image, because it is amazing how they work to me. Because I actually got into repairing them because my dad owns an arcade, and maintaining monitors is kind of expensive. So I actually taught myself how to repair them. And that is a, well, that's a Philips. And I think that's I think it's a 32, a 30 or a 32, I think. And it's not a bad TV. Like I said, it's not the biggest. But the picture on that is like crystal clear and the colors are fantastic. Like that tube looks like it's new, is the reason I use it over some of the other ones I have down here. Plus it's flat glass, which is nicer. But I know people have asked before, like why I bother having a tube TV when I have an LCD. Light gun games won't work. Like if you remember the Nintendo Zapper, they need such like tight timings, because when you pull the trigger, it'll flash like a separate like black and white screen for the hit registration. And the delay in LCDs is actually significant enough that like that system won't work, because it needs essentially like 0 latency for the system to work. But yeah, Duck Hunt rules. There's a couple other cool shooting games too. But that's one of the reasons to use a tube TV. Another one is just like having 0 input lag. Like when I'm playing Mario 64 or Mario Kart 64, like a game like that, they're not fun when you have input latency. It just kind of like makes it less fun for me. Yeah, Hogan's Alley's fun. There's a lot of decent shooters on the NES. But no, you'll see like all the purists. Like I'm actually in, I think that's the name of the group on Facebook, is Console Purist. There's a lot of snobby assholes in the retro gaming world, and I'm not one of those guys. Like I have friends that use like the Raspberry Pis for like the retro Pis and stuff, and it's like, man, if you have fun with that, go for it. I totally see the appeal. Like I use emulation when I want to play arcade games. Like there's a lot of like arcade game emulators, like the MAME stuff and all that. If that's what you have fun with, like by all means, go ahead. Do what you want to do. But like just personally, that's why like I'd like to have a modded NES that just has an HDMI mod in it, but it's really expensive to go that route. It's the retro AVS, that system I just showed you. They're already, I think they're on sale right now. I just looked this morning, because I was considering, I'd like to come up with a little bit of money to do a couple little projects here in the near future. And I was considering selling my retro AVS, because they've sold for up to $400 on eBay because they're kind of back ordered from the people that sell them, even though they only cost $170. And like there's one on eBay where a guy sold the EverDrive, that SD card cartridge that costs about $100, and the Retro EVS that costs about $170, and they were bringing like 130 or 350 to 400. So it's kind of tempting. But yeah, I would recommend it. If you can justify having these big old heavy bastards around and your still works good, I would keep it. It's just like, it's like the 40-inch Trinitron that I have upstairs. That thing is such a pain to have around, and moving it is, it actually scares me to move that thing because I'm afraid of somebody getting hurt because it's so awkward and so heavy. Like, I would like to have it downstairs. I would ideally like to have it sitting here, but I do not know how to safely get it downstairs. It's, like I said, it weighs, if I remember correctly, it's like 260 or 280 pounds, and it's awkward as hell. But the picture on it's amazing. It's freaking amazing. What's this? An alternate display chip. Is this for, what is this for? I have to check that out. But I know there's a lot of options. Like I do, I've done and sold them for a while now. The AV mods for consoles, like I've done some in televisions because they only put out RF, like radio frequency, which is like the worst display signal possible. Like they're terrible quality. Did I 3D print the stand? Hell no. That'd have been like a month of printing. No, I just threw that together. It functions. It's not as nice as I'd like to have it, but is that for a Pi, Aaron? Is that for a Retro Pi to get like retro-esque graphics or something? Because I know there's like there's a lot of, that's what I was saying. There's a lot of things you can do for like modding retro consoles. Some are easy, like Ataris are easy. The Sega Genesis is easy. You can get high def audio, and it's not high def video, but you can get composite video out of them fairly easily. But no, I have to check that out, Aaron. I need to get some food here soon, but no, I mean to summarize, no, I don't have any problems with people like using emulation and stuff. Some of it's pretty good. Some systems, the emulation is kind of bad on. Well, yeah. The thing is, Aaron, like I don't want to move away from CRTs. Like again, it's part of just like that nostalgia stuff. Like I grew up with CRTs. I've worked closely with CRTs for like pushing 20 years now. My dad opened his go-kart track up when I was probably 9, I think. And like arcade games have just been like old arcade cabinets have been just part of my life, like my whole life. And yeah, there's just something about that experience. Like that annoying high-pitched whine, that high-frequency whine that the flybacks, it's like the high voltage converter in a CRT. Like that stuff just like, I don't know, it's like anything nostalgic. It's hard to explain why it's what you want, but yeah, I don't know. It's all part of it. That's why I said, like, I know some of it's nostalgia goggles, but everybody has that. Yeah, like imagination. I remember having a black and white CRT TV. I remember watching Maryland Public Television from our antenna on our TV when we got 3 channels back when I was littler. That TV was like that big too. I remember when I got my first TV, my parents bought me my own TV for my room for my NES after they got sick of it. And I think that was like a 10 or 12 inch TV. And I thought it was like the coolest thing ever. That's why I said, like, I do some things I'll do on the LCD. Like the retro AVS, that modern console looks fantastic on an LCD. There's zero input lag. You can play all the NES games. You can even play like all the original Famicom, the NES from Japan, like the original. You can play all those games on that too. It's fine. It's really fine. They look like super crisp. Like if I ever record stuff, like I've recorded stuff a few times. I planned on doing stuff for this channel, but I never ended up doing it. It's all 3D printing. But like I can record directly into my capture card on my computer from that. It's like crystal clear 720p, which is nice. And you can't do that with composite video. It looks like crap. But now it's just all part of the nostalgia. There are some systems I wish I could play on HD displays. Like they've been back ordered for a long time. I haven't looked recently, but I'd like to do an HDMI mod to one of my Nintendo 64s so I could play on an LCD, just because it'd be convenient, and there really isn't a product like the retro AVS for N64 games yet. So on emulation, it's fine. I don't frequently play emulated N64 games, but I have before, and they're fine. The problem with those is they're like more modern electronics where they have, oh my god, like there's different versions of the 64, but the one has like a main processing chip that probably has 240 leads off of it, and you need to jump into quite a few of those to do the HDMI mod, which is a little involved, but I'd still like to do one. Because the graphics on the 64 are terrible. It's low resolution. If you guys didn't know, the N64 has the same resolution as the Super Nintendo, I think. They actually didn't increase the resolution at all. I'm losing color. Might just be my bald head reflecting into the camera. No, but like as always, Vince, this is a short stream, Vince. We went for 3 hours. That's a short one. That's how we do it around here. But no, we were just talking about retro gaming and stuff. Nothing like most streams, nothing incredibly important. But like I said, Tuesday we're going to switch back to linear bearings, and if I can get everything ready, we'll try to insulate the heat bed with cork. I think the cork I have is the right stuff, and I'll do a little bit of looking into what's involved. But we'll do that Tuesday. Hopefully I'll have a video up before then, if all goes well. But I'm not totally sure. Like I said, this week was kind of a total loss as far as like YouTube was concerned. I just had like other stuff I had to do, and then with things not going correctly here, I really don't have a space to record in that's suitable. But Klaus, no, I don't think. Like I mentioned earlier, the IGUS are going to stay in the X-axis. I think they're good there. I think they are very suitable for that. I just want to do a little bit of experimenting with the Y-axis and see how I feel. Now that I have experience with the IGUS in there, and I want to go back and see how I feel. And then, like I said, I'll probably I should do that today. Maybe I could even have them by Tuesday, but I think I'll go ahead and order some of the anodized aluminum rods from IGUS, and then after I spend some time with the linear bearings back in, switch back to like the IGUS bushings with their brand of smooth rod and see how things go. But yeah, I'm overall pleased. Like I don't think there's a quality issue. If you didn't catch me when I said it earlier, there's a little bit of play in my Y-axis now that I have a few hundred hours on those bushings, and I'm just kind of curious to see what how it feels with the other original bearings back in. Especially, like, it makes me want to revisit it now that people have been talking about it again, because Prusa has been coming out and recommending that people don't do the switch, which they weren't doing before, and it is kind of like... the bushings have always been like a debate and or discussion topic in the 3D printing community, but it kind of like rekindled that fire now that they've made a few like official statements about it. So yeah, I just want to revisit it. I wanted to anyway, but I think it's like kind of timely to do it now and kind of revisit it, and then ideally do a video in the next week or two about like my feelings about the bushings and the different locations and stuff. Because if you guys remember or didn't know, I never switched my Z-axis bearings. They're still the originals. I don't personally think there's a whole lot to be gained by switching the Z-axis. Like, they don't have any play, and there's very little movement in them. So that's Klaus. That's actually what Aaron and I were discussing the other week. Because I think Aaron bought some. I can't remember the name. It's a 3-letter company, but he bought some high-end linear bearings from them that were $25 to $30 a piece, I think. And I'd kind of like to do that too. I've been spending so much money lately, I can't justify like spending more money on that. So we'll experiment with some of the stuff I have. The SKF, that's right. Because one of the appeals to me is that the default linear bearings only have 4 runs of balls in them, and these have 8, I think, or 7 or 8. I think it's 8. So yeah, I'm sure they bear the loads and the friction a little bit better, like distributing it more evenly throughout the bearings and stuff. But I'm sure their tolerances are a little bit better too. They're probably manufactured a little better. But if you do that, you should also, yeah, 4 races versus 4, or 8 races versus 4. But like Aaron and I were discussing last time, you should probably replace your smooth rods at the same time, because the tolerances actually aren't that great. I don't think they're terrible on the default smooth rails, but they're not that great either. So the finish isn't very smooth on them either. I think that's why the bushings and the Y-axis might be wearing a little prematurely. Because I think, I haven't looked, but I think they said like you should have thousands of hours of wear time on the IGUS bushings. But like I said, I probably have 600-ish hours. But yeah, we'll definitely, Macy, we'll definitely do that Tuesday. We'll take some measurements. What's the difference between bushings and bearings? Bushings don't, like, all of these IGUS bushings, because you can also get, like, brass bushings and stuff, too. They don't actually have any balls in them, like ball bearings. And then ball bearings actually have little steel or ceramic balls in them that kind of roll. So ideally, in a ball bearing that's functioning properly, you don't really have any friction other than that surface contact while the little balls roll inside. And the bushings are actually like, they have friction. Yeah. Exactly. Maki said that better than I did. He said it in 4 words. Bushings slide, bearings roll. That's the difference. Yeah, Klaus, like, I agree. Chromed ones are better just because you'll have a smoother finish. And as long as your chroming process is refined, you have very good tolerances. But like, I understand, like, all that stuff introduces additional manufacturing costs. Like, if you look at the difference between like mid quality rods like are on there versus like high quality hardened chrome rods, like there is a price difference. But it's understandable. Like, everything's like, if you're building yourself a machine, it's easier to justify the cost. Like, I understand when you're making something for like mass manufacturing, like there's a lot of concessions that end up being made. So it's understandable. It's all like a trade-off. It's all like a series of compromises to get something that's like good enough for the consumer, but like still affordable. But like, I've said that before. If you're interested in getting an MK2, like I don't know if he's still here. The person earlier was going to order one. You don't have to do any of this to this machine. Like most of us here, we're just tinkerers. It's that perpetual dissatisfaction with the current state of things that comes with being like a tinkerer. So yeah, you don't have to do any of this stuff. Yeah, I don't know, Michael. Michael was just basically saying that like his makes noise, and then I felt the same way because like my printer was fairly noisy, but at the same time, I would see people who said the printer wasn't noisy and they couldn't understand how people thought it was. So I don't know. I don't know. They might have had like some inconsistencies in manufacturing. I mean, that's always possible, especially with like the number of printers they're making. But like I've mentioned, Michael, unfortunately the x-axis isn't really like a huge source of noise, but I think the the RJ4JPs, the ones we were talking about earlier, I think they're absolutely fine in the x-axis from my personal experience. But I'm still kind of undecided about the y-axis, like the actual heat bed axis. And then like Nicholas said, I think I don't know if you have, Michael. I never lubricated mine, which I know makes a huge difference. And I kind of feel like a dummy in hindsight, complaining, like doing all the things I did, like printing all the feet and switching bushings and doing all this crap. And I never tried lubricating them. So, uh, yeah, if you haven't tried lubrication, uh, oh, so you haven't. So yeah, it might be a night and day difference. I wouldn't be surprised if it dramatically reduces, because I'm sure a lot of the noise is the balls, like after the lubrication is worn off of them, because it only comes with the little bit of oil, like manufacturing oil that they ship with, which is lubricant, but it's not really like, it's not lubricated like they should be. They should probably, ideally, they should send the kits with like a little, uh, like almost like a ketchup packet full of lubricant, like a small initial amount for you to lube everything down. That would probably make a big difference with people. Like I honestly don't know. I do know that like was mentioned earlier, probably one of the best things is PTFE grease if you can find that, because in the long run it'll actually like treat the surfaces, and kind of the longer you run with it, the better it'll lubricate, because it's going to be coating everything with Teflon, which makes Teflon's pretty amazing stuff. But yeah, I would do. Like I said, I don't know offhand which lubricants would be best. I'd Google it. I'm sure you'll get quick answers, because almost all linear bearings are the same, because these are just on steel rods with pretty standard linear bearings. I would just Google it, and before you, not that it's that big of a job to switch to the IGUS bearings or bushings, but before you do that, I would try just try lubricating them, because you should be lubricating them anyway, and it might be the case that reduces your noise issues enough that you don't really feel like doing anything. And doing nothing is obviously easier than doing something, especially when you end up disassembling your machine and stuff. So I would try that. And like I said, I'll try to do some research and have several types of grease and stuff on hand to recommend to people, because I don't know how much PTFE is. I think this is a link here. Let me actually take a glimpse. Oh hell, okay, yeah, a 4-ounce bottle of PTFE lubricants, like $10 on Amazon. So yeah. Because I know most grease is relatively inexpensive. It's like a petroleum byproduct for the most part. So most greases and lubricants aren't that expensive. But yeah, I would recommend that. I need to do mine. Like I haven't lubricated my Z-axis bearings in a long time, and they're probably due. Yes, Klaus is right. Oil-based lubricants can be a pain in the ass. For one, they're going to accumulate gunk, which is inevitable. They're going to get pushed off the surfaces you're trying to lubricate. They're going to accumulate at the end of the movements of everything, and then they'll accumulate dirt and stuff. And yeah, if you stay on top of things and like properly maintenance your machine, it's not really that big of a deal. But dry lubricants, like I remember when I was younger, I discovered graphite powder, and it was like amazing to me because like I'd lubricate stuff with it. It's yeah, it's pretty good stuff. It's like that. I don't know if that would be appropriate. It might be the case. I wouldn't go using graphite powder for this. But yeah, dry lubricants are definitely superior if you can get away with it. Don't use WD-40. I can say that with absolute confidence. Don't use WD-40. It's not a lubricant. I just had this argument with a family member like a week ago. They had squeaky hinges in their house, like on their doors, and he was spraying WD-40 on them. I was like, it's no wonder they freaking squeak. It's like you're basically causing this problem in the long term. But yeah, it's water displacement 40. It's not lubricant 40. That's what WD-40 is. So don't use WD-40. It's not a lubricant. But all right, guys, I'm gonna head out. I need to eat something. I'm dying here. So like usual, that's true. WD-40 is great for, well, it's not actually not great for cleaning. I don't know. Avoid WD-40 if you can. There's like better solutions in almost everything. If you need to clean electronics, there's deoxidants and stuff that you can use that are better. And if you need to lubricate, use actual lubricants because they're better. But yeah, I'm gonna head out, guys. Like usual, thanks for hanging out with me. I know this was kind of a weird one. We didn't really do much 3D printing stuff, but hopefully Tuesday will be kind of normal. I have like everything reassembled and functioning normally. But thanks for hanging out with me. Thanks to everybody that supports me on Patreon. If you do want to support the channel, that's like a great way to do it. The revenue through YouTube itself is kind of erratic. I've already had 2 videos demonetized because they were not suitable for advertisers, whatever the hell that means. It's not like we were talking about anything like controversial in any of these streams, but yeah, if you do want to like help support the channel, it helps a lot. And just like subscribing and stuff actually helps a lot. It gives me some feedback and lets me know that people give a crap about what's going on. So if you haven't subbed, consider it. And ideally, YouTube will send you alerts and stuff when things happen and I stream, but recently that unfortunately hasn't been the case. So I guess it's kind of like a try it and see kind of thing. But no, thanks everybody. Thanks for hanging out. Hopefully you had fun. I'll see you Tuesday, if not before. So thanks. Bye.